Hello, everyone. This is the Loncast, episode 7, hosted by the one and only Lon Lily. And we have a very special double guest episode here. Obviously, you can see on the screen we got Mido and Mastrcheap. How are you two doing?
Oh
Great.
my god, this is a great start already.
Just.
I was waiting on you because Lon introduced you first.
We
Oh,
can
is that what we were doing?
we can do a retake if you guys want.
No, this is funnier. Keep it in.
No,
Keep it
this is great. This is great.
Okay.
Keep it.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Go
You can go
first.
first.
No, go first,
Wait,
damn it.
fuck. Okay, fine.
We're not even a minute in.
Um. Hi. I am Midori with two eyes. Please do not spell it with one. Um, I am one of the main event runners for Intertwining Fates, the main BB Tag server for North America, and soon to be South America, if everything goes to plan. Um, I do tournament organization, I do graphic design, as well as video editing, and I'm looking to get into animation as well as general editing in order to expand my repertoire.
And I'm Master Cheap, former TO Brack runner and host for Wednesday Night Fights BB Tag. Had a good run of, wow, yeah, 7 years running that, both offline and online, and happy that we ended things off on a fantastic note with that. And now I'm, going to do something with my free time. Maybe pursue some of the art ideas that I've had and, further develop that. But time will tell, commitment and all that. So, but that's how things look for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, really happy to have both of you on here. Cheap has been on a previous episode of the Longcast. Very WNF centric, the whole ratio list. So not new here, but happy to have Mido, who has been a friend for quite a while now. But the reason I have you two both here, as we've probably discussed, is we're gonna have a discussion generally about play styles, character choices, all that type of jazz. Just basically a podcast centering around how you play, why you play the way that you do, and just those general like kind of mental aspects I think that go into any given game, and of course focusing on BB Tag. And yeah, I have to give a special shout outs to Nepgear, who did suggest kind of the concept of this episode, not one to one to what they suggested, but a lot of the ideas did come to them. So that shout outs to you. But yeah, I think first of all, something that we would probably have to discuss is like, especially considering the topic at hand, which is just generally your playstyle, kind of your two's like general history with fighting games, because I think that can really dictate how you really gain that mentality and gain that unique way of how you play. It generally starts from the beginning point. I would probably say most people's playstyles adapt over time, but don't necessarily like change over time. Um, would you two agree with that?
I would say so,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
it's it's kind of interesting because I definitely feel like everyone has gone through a different zigzag when it comes to improving that. Like, I know we're talking about playstyles and whatnot. If I had to describe how mine has developed over what I remember, I remember getting BB Tag because a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you're a filthy Smash player. You can't do fucking quarter circles." And I'm like, "Yeah? Bet?" I was like 16 back then, and I got the game because that's what they were all playing, and I remember just being in the lab until I could do one basic combo with Weiss. It wasn't Weiss at first actually. It was Chie and Seth, I think. Like Chie was the first character I ever picked up in Tag, and that I dropped drastically. Um, and then like after that, I just remember going into the lobby and I wouldn't say like play well, but I think I had more of a idea of what I wanted to do because I spent so much time trying to figure out what that would be beforehand. And I remember just having this one person DM me on PlayStation like, "Oh my God, you're so good for a green square," which going back on it, that's kind of funny to say to someone like, "Oh man, you're good for being this. What the fuck?" But no, yeah, I just remember that being kind of motivational because, oh, I guess green square isn't that good, so it's like a bit of a differential there. And I think around this time was the point where I started watching more fighting games. And one match that always stuck out to me, and I think I've spoken to both of you about it before, is the match between Leffen and Go One during like early Dragon Ball.
Mhm.
That match in particular stuck out to me so much because Go One was in such a life deficit. He was down 3 characters to one. He he had a hell of a long way to come back from, and but he did it. He had the defense to back it up. He made it so that he was able to get himself in a situation where he could start making that comeback. He could start looking into further, how do I put this? Better, he had a win condition despite the fact that he was in such a deficit. And watching that, not live per se, but watching it in general just was a big inspiration for how I like to go about my playstyle. Ever since then, I always thought, oh, it doesn't matter how often I don't get my offense over. It doesn't matter how much damage I do, as long as I can block everything. If I just never get hit, then who cares? So a lot of my early years in BB Tag, or just in fighting games in general, I played a lot of Uni early, eventually Grand Blue. I always prided myself on being able to, to sit down and block in a game that doesn't really reward that kind of thing. And that was a bit earlier within my career as a fighting game player. But after the fact, 3, 4 years now, we're bordering on 2024. I think something clicked within my head and it made me realize that not only was the environment of Dragon Ball where Go One made that comeback a different story. Like there isn't as much mix. Someone doing staggers on your block and into a reactable throw tech isn't exactly the same as Asriel doing a teleport or jump cancel teleport into assist and does fucking 12k on a 16k character. It's not the same shit. This is not the same situation. But I think I realized more that defense doesn't always necessarily mean just sitting down and taking something. It means being active, understanding what your opponent wants, being able to interact with them in a way that forces them to think about what to do so that the things that are scary aren't performed as much. You're not going to be doing system mixes often if, I'm push blocking and the assist and mashing on you right before you do the air dash, right? And that's something that if I represent that, then you're going to start looking at it. It's the Yomi game, and I
Mhm.
realize that that's kind of important to sprinkle in every now and again to make sure that people don't get too comfortable touching your block. And ever since then, I've been trying to be more active on block, which has been a bit of a challenge. It's been hard for me to try and internalize that kind of thing, which I was going to comment on is kind of interesting because I feel like Cyrus and I are kind of similar in that regard, but we definitely went about it in different ways. And I'm kind of curious on what he has to say about that. But I feel like that's a good way of summarizing how my playstyle started and where it's currently at.
Mhm. Mhm. How about you, Cheap?
So I started playing fighting games incredibly early. Like, what was it? Like, I think when I was like 4 or 5, my brother and I would play like Super Street Fighter 2 on the SNES. If that tells you anything about like in terms of dating me, but yeah, it's like I started it like super early, and at that point, whenever you're that old, you don't understand like motion inputs or something like that, at least for the time. So I was just pushing buttons, doing what I can, and sometimes winning, and sometimes getting my ass handed to me thoroughly because my brother understood that. But I think that was like doing that, playing with him, and then like also like him and I would always play a lot of melee at the time too, like really seriously against each other, and that was like a lot more uh nuanced in terms of like neutral. Well, even though him and I didn't really understand at the time, but we were kind of like a lot more cognizant of it because of just how Smash is.
Mm-hmm.
But I always tended to be like the type of player that like wanted to be in your face all the time. Like I played Fox like whenever I was starting off. I was playing top tiers whenever I was a kid. Um but I always like kind of had that mentality of just like I want to go in. I want to be in your face. I want to just constantly like, just do what I want on your defense, like, and keep hitting you, keep on being there. And that kind of like carried itself throughout like a lot of my fighting game journey. And like eventually, like, once I started actually being a lot more I guess aware and like, of the of how fighting games actually like work, how they're supposed to be played on like a higher level. That's whenever I was like, okay, so what do I really just gravitate towards? Like, I know like I like to be in your face. So what kind of character does that? A lot of the time I just would play like Shotos because like me being me, a lot of the time I don't have a game plan, so I'm just going to like be basic. I'm going to be simple. I'm going to do, things that are kind of like lower on terms of execution wise so that I can be confident enough in my game plan where like, I don't have to like worry about like, oh, what if this drops or something like that. And that's kind of like what I carried on throughout. And in terms of like watching sets or like matches that like kind of inspired us of how to play. I watched like because I played Smash a lot like growing up, and that was like my primary fighting game. That's kind of where I started like really getting serious into this genre. So I watched a lot of Scar, Nun, S2J. I loved watching Captain Falcon players, and that's kind of where I got a mentality of I want to be a hype man. I want to be the guy that people cheer for. Even if I don't win, I want to be the guy that puts on a show. And like also like in a similar vein, I've loved Bizarro Flame as well for that reason. So I really wanted to like encapsulate that and really do that. So that's whenever I switched to playing Captain Falcon at the time and being again still carrying that basic like sort of gameplay style, but if you go back like years, like almost 10 years ago at this point, to whenever I played at my locals in Oklahoma, you can tell that like, what is this guy doing? How is this working? What is happening? Like that was a constant. That was always something that happened no matter what game I played against somebody. It was just like the most ridiculous things would happen and I would just get away with it. Like who in their right mind would fully charge Captain Falcon's forward smash, his people's elbow? Who would fully charge that and still have it land? Because people just like kept running into it. And I'm like, okay, sure, if it works, it works. So that's kind of where I got the other side of the mentality where I sort of developed this, where it's just like, wouldn't it be funny though? Wouldn't it be funny if this worked? Which is why anymore in tag or like any other game that I play nowadays, it's just like, sometimes I'll have a very solid game plan, but then like a little voice in the back of my head is just like, hey, you should do this. It would be really funny. I'm like, you know what? You're right. If it works, it works. If it works, I'm a genius. If it doesn't, well, you know what? Sure, I took that gamble. And yeah, so and again, just like the characters I play a lot of the time, like I play Shotos, I play grapplers because I also have that similar mentality to what Mito said of just like I'm confident enough in my defense that all I need is like one interaction to get my game plan going. You need multiple, especially if I'm playing like somebody with a higher health pool. I'm like, I can afford to make mistakes. I can afford to take this hit. So sure, hit me, make me block all you want. As soon as I get my hit, that's all I need. That's my win condition. I don't care.
Yeah, like I guess for like beside this behind the scenes talk, the reason why I had YouTube in particular is because like it's so interesting how a lot of your two's mentality can kind of parallel each other, but the way your playstyles manifest is some of the most polar opposite like the like gameplay I think I've ever seen in tag.
Yeah.
Like Mito, I've always known you to be a bit more of a defensive player. I always joked on commentary, like, "What do you mean Mito push blocks? What is this?" uh, when you first started having that mentality, and you explaining like why that mentality shift happened makes a lot of sense in hindsight. But I just thought it was funny back in the day, yeah, as you said, like last year when I started seeing you do stuff like push block because like it was a lot different from the playstyle that I used to see you do, which was like very defensive, whereas cheap is like super aggro, like in your face. So yeah, that's a big part of the reason why I wanted to have you two kind of like interact and talk about it. It's just like the pure unadulterated contrast, and I hope by the end of this, like the audience and maybe even you two can kind of understand like how these things develop and like just the general like mindset that you two have when it comes to playing the game.
I do also want to mention, I forgot to mention this too. So, transitioning from Smash to anime fighters was obviously incredibly different, having to learn like motion inputs even more complicated than the usual. But the other match and the other player that I saw a lot of whenever I was starting off in that was Kusoru, which for those who are uninitiated is one of the wildest soul bad guy players I've ever seen grace the competitive scene. And just go watch, like, specifically if you're going to watch a Kusoru set, watch Kusoru versus Steve H. Final round 15 grand finals. Yes, specifically that match. It is a treat to see how different the playstyles are and what works and what, like, for each player. But how he played was also something that I'm just like, man, he is just doing stuff. And that was what I thought at the time. And then like after gaining more knowledge of it, I was just like, oh, there's a calculated like play here, but it's also under a layer of he's just doing things. And I'll never forget. I'll finish it off with this. I'll never forget being at CEO Taku. I think I was talking with you, Mito, actually,
Yeah.
about this. And I was talking about this specifically, about Kusoru. And as I mentioned Kusoru's name, I see Hashimo, like who was like kind of sitting there, like kind of like on his phone or like laughing. I see Hashimo out of the corner of my eye just look up at our conversation, and like immediately like the recognition from that, and like I was like as I was like finishing up explaining to Mito, and then I was talking to Hashimo about like, yeah, no, I really like Kusoru, and he was like, ah, that makes sense, a lot of sense.
Dude, the way he started laughing after he noticed was so fucking
Yep,
funny.
it was so great. It was fantastic.
Uh, that's yeah, that's hmm. Just hearing you two talk about like your general playstyles and how they develop, it's kind of interesting, like because I think it pretty heavily differed from mine because I've talked about it in previous episodes of Loncast, and I guess I'm somewhat surprised of how much we all like came from Smash in general, but like um yeah, I'm to explain some things. Like I also come from a Smash background. Started off playing Brawl when I was a kid and thought it was the sickest thing, and then really got into it when Smash 4 came out. And I don't know what particular reason why, but I've always gravitated towards like sword characters. When I first started playing uh Smash 4, I started playing Lucina, which apparently is pretty common for Ori players. I'll get to that a little later. But I made Lucina for a while, and I played her for quite a bit. And then when Corrin came out, I played a lot of Corrin. Stuck with them pretty much until the game ended up being succeeded by Ultimate. And I also picked up Cloud too. So I've always gravitated towards characters that have range but aren't necessarily like zoner characters. And I think interesting to hear you two having such direct inspirations of players that you watch to develop your playstyles, because I never really did. I had players that I liked, but they never played the characters that I did. I mean, if you know anything about Smash 4, of course there's plenty of Cloud players, but like there's like barely any Corrin players out there. And of course I was relatively limited at the time because I didn't really get too into competitive Smash. So I like if I would to go into any general tournament, like I would very rarely see Corrin players. So I kind of developed it by myself, and um, even to this day, I don't really have a general idea how to describe my Smash playstyle. I just kind of played Corrin. Um, that being said, when I did get into more anime fighters, I the first like undisputed anime fighter that I played was Guilty Gear XR Rev 2, and I played a lot of Dizzy in that. And that's kind of generally where I got my enjoyment of playing characters that have I guess range and projectile games. I played a lot of Dizzy. That was my main for quite a bit. Um, yeah, but besides that, I didn't really play a lot of other fighting games until Tag, which I landed with Ori and Yukiko, who I, in hindsight, kind of fit what my general character choices were in the past. But like, yeah, Tag was, I think, the first time I really had a reference for players to watch. And most importantly, players that I could play against to develop my own play style from. I watched a lot of Hien and Lotad to kind of develop my Ori, and I watched a lot of Podge's gameplay and Dark Death's gameplay and Kaiden's gameplay or I go by Amethyst Sky now, to develop like my Yukiko, and that's like the first time I really started getting more analytical when it came to playing the game and like understanding my play style. And I think the biggest help for me was the fact that I actually got to play people who played my characters, because when I was playing Smash and Xrd and all that type of stuff, I barely had anyone to go off. Like nobody in my area played Corrin, nobody online would play Corrin. And it's the same thing for Dizzy, but thanks to two players in the Pacific, Podge and Tomoe, I actually developed a lot of my play style because of them and getting to play against them. So yeah, I guess this kind of segues into one of the topics I wanted to discuss, which is kind of your play style uh preferences and how they line up with your character choices. I know Cheap kind of delved into the fact, you gravitate towards more like Shotos and like grappler style characters, but like because you have a very defensive play style, or at least that's how you develop the game. How do you think that affected what characters you picked in Tag, or just in general fighting games?
A lot, unironically. I know it's kind of vague to say, but I think the reason, well, not the reason, but well, no, I guess it would be the reason. I swear I can speak English. I picked a lot of characters that had a lot of jack of all trades things. Characters that can be put in pretty much any situation, and you would always have an answer to something. There's never a point on the screen where you're like, "Oh fuck, I can't fucking do anything. I can't move. Can't I'm stacking no bitches, no paper, none of that kind of thing." Like I enjoyed characters like that initially, and to an extent, this still stands true. Like there's a reason I still play Hyde, which is partially an emotional connection, but also because he is just a character that is incredibly synonymous with the way that I initially wanted to play Tag. He's a very defensive character. He doesn't really do much besides sit on the screen and wait for you to fuck up. His offense isn't that crazy, but it didn't really have to be because he chips your block constantly. He forces you to push it, block him off all the time. He has decent movement. His buttons are okay. He does everything okay. And I think that was the kind of thing that I was definitely looking for. Which is why it's kind of interesting to think about how like I played Weiss of all characters initially. Like I played Weiss for a really long time. I want to say 2-3 years before I started experimenting with other Hyde teams.
Yeah.
And oh my bad, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say like Weiss. Even though I haven't seen you play in a while, that's the character I associate you with alongside Hyde. Most of the time I've known you, I've always thought of you as a Weiss player more than a Hyde player. I mean, nowadays I think the pendulum has definitely shifted towards Hyde, but yeah, it helps. You know, you're a Weiss spec in main core, or I mean, you still are. You haven't died yet.
Oh yeah, like that's ever mattered. Fucking when has character spec meant anything ever?
Yeah,
You'd be surprised.
it's a janitorial role. I mean, some people care about him.
Yeah,
Most
no
people
wild card
don't.
does. Okay, you didn't hear that. But yeah, no. When it comes to like characters I played, it is kind of surprising in retrospect that I played Weiss. I guess it was more understanding after a little while that I also liked playing mid-range monsters, characters that can control the pace in the match, which also to an extent kind of go into the whole defensive thing because I can control my ground pretty well with a character that has an 8 frame that reaches further than like I don't know the chancleta your mom throws at you when she's mad. You know, that's got some range, and what Weiss could definitely match that. And I thought that was pretty fun. And that's why I look at the characters I play now, and I think it's definitely a different time because I started leaning towards characters that had better movement as a whole. You know, I'm sure you both know like the last two characters that I've been playing with Hyde have been Blake and Seth, and both of them are notorious for having some of the best movement in the game.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And which I definitely feel like that played a big thing in it. Obviously, those both of those characters, you know, just naturally happen to have a good pair up with Hyde. Like they're both tier one teams, but I would definitely say that I clicked really hard with Seth and Blake. I enjoy both those characters a lot, and I don't think I ever really would have if I didn't start looking at the game differently. Because if I were to talk to my 2021 self, who played characters like Kurogane, characters like Narukami, I would look at it and think, what the fuck are you doing? But it really is just a dichotomy of like how different someone can be over the course of time. Because I think now, I wouldn't say I'm like significantly better than I was 2 years ago, but I'm definitely a different person. And I feel like that definitely leaned towards the playstyles there because I'm more willing to take risks. I'm more willing to be able to go in your face and do some dumb shit because I remember I was like such a stickler for that kind of thing before. I used to never astral people because I'm like, oh, astrals are disrespectful. Why would I ever astral someone if I don't want them to astral me? Some dumb shit like that. And now who fucking cares? If it's gonna give you the win, it's gonna give you the win. Like, and I feel like that definitely reflects in the playstyle now. I'm willing to walk up to you and do like super or some shit. I'm just gonna do something that'd be funny occasionally because I think it would mess with your mental. I'm not doing it because I think it's a good option, and I'm probably not gonna represent that as much in like a tournament set. But I see the value in that kind of thing now. I understand why people do it, and I think implementing that kind of thing into my gameplay, alongside just being, you know, a little more strict when it comes to execution, because I definitely feel like that's one of my biggest flaws at the moment as a player. I do not have execution down, unfortunately. I be dropping shit. I be doing setups wrong. I be getting DP'd 17 times. I played a set with Sonikun earlier today. I think I've had more red health on both of my characters from getting DP'd during my block strings than I've had in the course of any month I've played this game.
Oh god.
That's wild.
Like
That's crazy.
actual fucking D1 rage baiter, and it's because my pressure is just not there. Like I'm not keeping shit tight. I'm not looking for him to DP. I'm just kind of sitting there trying to move around him. Obviously, that motherfucker has plot armor. That's a different thing. Like, I could go into the semantics with that, but I'm not because we're on a time schedule. But I definitely think that and like the mental thing comes into the whole defensive part because you can't really be good at defending if your mental's not there. If I'm thinking, if I'm in my own head and I'm trying to block some sort of 50-50, you know, Scrub got fucking Seth 5P on me, he got walled dashing up. What the fuck am I doing, bruh? Like, hello? There's a bit of a discrepancy there. I think, needless to say. And how do I wrap this up? I think it's just a matter of getting all of those within a good equilibrium, being able to recognize where I need to prioritize my mental more than anything else, or like how much I need to grind certain things, and whatever. It's more focused on other things like that instead of just sitting on the fucking screen thinking I'm better than you because I can block a 24 frame overhead, which I can't. You know, there's a reason I made that thumbnail with Gauntlet Hades a while back. Fucking shit hurt my soul. But yeah, no, I think that about wraps it up. How do you feel about your playstyle, Chief?
When it comes to character choices and such, like, I mean, I already said it before, but it's just like, yeah, it's just like a lot of the time, yeah, it is like, okay, this character in terms of like their playstyle, yeah, like fits with kind of what I want out of like, you know, a game plan. But I'll be honest, sometimes like I just pick a character because I just vibe with them, like like personality slash like aesthetic wise. Like Akihiko, I mean, you know, sure, he fits like the description of just like being in your face, rush down brawler sort of style, but at the same time, I just like the dude. Like he's just cool. Like Mika, she's a gremlin. She's great. She's funny. I love her, and she fits the bill of like what a lot of my teams, like pretty much every one of my teams, lack is just like a way of like, you know, putting a stop sign on like zoners and such. So like you know, yeah, character in terms of like play style, like how they are, like what their game plan is, like that dictates a lot, but I think like 50-50 it's like between play style and character aesthetics, which a lot of the time is also why I'm such a character loyalist too. Like you don't really see me do too many different teams because I like to stick with what I've picked a lot of the time from the outset, and I really want to do my best to be representative, like be a representative of that character, like no matter what. Like that's why I've stuck with Ragnar so long. That's why I've stuck with Akihiko and Miko for so long. It's just like you don't see too many of those characters being played now, especially now. You don't, outside of like maybe one other person I can think of. You don't see Mika. You don't see her at all.
Yeah, like it it feels so long ago since you ended up picking Mika as a character. And like at least from my perspective, is like she kind of just fits you like a glove, just a full package of it. Just the way she plays. I guess like just her entire design is like, I don't know, like nice way to put it. It's her play style and the moves that she has kind of promotes a very like asshole-ish type of I'm just gonna do crap,
I,
bro.
I get it. I get it. I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah. Like I'm
Yeah.
just gonna Mika missile. Like look at this gremlin. She's coming right at you, ignoring projectiles. Like she just does stuff, and like at least from my perspective, like the characters that you ended up picking cheap, um, like they like I get the sense that they just fit you as a person.
Mhm.
Um and kind of one of the things that I wanted to ask, I guess like cheap in specific, but this definitely also applies to you. You know, recently we got off the heels of Fate GP, I think, a month ago, and they forced you two off your primary team comms. Susanoo was the character for you, cheap, right? And then it
Yes.
was Seth for and you know, Seth for you, Mito, which is part of the reason, you know, you ended up picking him up. How did that experience of kind of learning a new character for this tournament kind of mesh with your general play style? Did you have any particular struggles when it came to like picking up your Fate GP characters? Was there any growing pains, or you feel like you guys made the right choice when it came to your primary partners for that tournament?
So for me, I would say I the final answer that you gave, the final option, I would say was how I felt. Because I play Akihiko and rush down, big damage, a lot of stuff. But like sometimes he has to really like kind of like work for that damage, especially like if he doesn't have meter like at his disposal. Susanoo, he hits you with 5B, he's doing like 8k at worst. Like he is going to hit you and he is going to hit you hard. And like as I said before, like a lot of the time I'm just simple. I'm keeping it basic or I'm keeping it like as consistent as I can be, and he just fit that. So I was like, okay, sure, I'll play him and then I'll play Ragna because even it, synergy be damned, like I still feel comfortable with Ragna and Susanoo. I mean, I just have to push like 2 buttons in neutral, and if they get hit, it's their fault.
Uh, yeah.
Speaking from experience.
Don't
Okay.
let's.
All right.
Mm.
Sorry.
No. This is good because I think
All
it
right.
accentuates the point I made earlier about the mental
All right.
thing.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it's super funny you brought up Grand Prix because I have a bit of a tangent with that. Not anything about like Doncom running it or anything. You did a great job with Taco, but so my initial plan for GP was actually to go in with Blake because I was really on my Blake craze at the time. I was enjoying the character a lot. I was thinking, okay, Blake has no fucking teams in the Ruby plus DLC comp, so you know what? I'm gonna pick up Yumi. I'm gonna play Blake Yumi just because I really want to play Blake. And that never came through, unfortunately, because my dumbass decided to sign up for UDPS4 last minute, and I got top 2, so I was forced to lock in with fucking Seth, my 30-minute Seth. By the way, I barely played this character before. Never touched Seth Hyde. And
Ayo, handshakes. I barely played Susanoo before I entered.
I
yeah,
remember the
man,
night you entered Fate GP cheap. It was dead ass. Just like I don't know. I'm just gonna join it, and then you freaking won.
I
yeah.
was like, like 10 minutes, Susan. I've never played a game with this character. Yeah, sure, I'll do it. Go on, go on.
You're the GOAT, by the way.
Takes one to know one.
No, I mean I got second. I lost to fucking scrub that butt bum piece of
Yeah,
shit.
just go on. Just go on.
But yeah, no, like it's funny you mentioned the characters that we picked up because I was literally not even intending to play Seth. But I knew Cam played the team. Shout out to Cam Dinar, and he had a lot of footage with it. So I was just thinking, man, why don't I just fuck with this for a little bit? There's him. I believe there was one Japanese player I'm forgetting the name of that also played Seth Hyde. Uh, I'll probably have to like reference it later. Lon can probably put this up in the editing. I'll make him do the fucking work.
I'm not
But
editing this.
fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Love the honesty.
My
Love the honesty.
my ethos with the Loncast has changed drastically. I don't put this through an editor. I just upload it.
Word. But yeah, no. Like I wasn't really intending to play Seth Hyde, but there was like a 2-month period before the next one because DonCon delayed it like a fucking extra month for whatever reason. It was usually I don't want to say excuses because like going to your kid's baseball games obviously takes priority, but there were some weeks he just didn't say anything. Like, oh yeah, we're skipping this week. Like, huh? Okay. And like
Sure.
we yeah, exactly. We had a lot of time to practice it. I think it was definitely fun with that. Seth kind of embodies that whole idea that we were talking about of like how my perspective on what characters I want to play has shifted. Blake was like the first foray into that, and now moving on to Seth. And I didn't mention this earlier, but I was planning on playing Izuyoi Hyde at some point just to like learn the team, and that's also a movement character. And I'm starting to notice a trend. Um, yeah, there was a lot of that. And I think playing Seth Hyde kind of cemented in my head that okay, I need to learn how to do offense because very clearly I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. and I'm just gonna lose games because either I'm not optimizing my damage enough, I'm playing fucking high keto, 4K dispenser over here, and Seth kind of balanced that out. He taught me that I can be more freeform with my pressure, and that there are ways to either keep it airtight or intentionally do shit that's fake just to fuck with people. He's so the sky's the limit with that character, and I think it's genuinely really cool. I used to hate that character. I used to think, ooh, uh, double jump, set orb. Ooh, what am I gonna do next? Ooh, I used to think that was so stupid, but now I understand the thought process behind it, and I think there's a lot that goes into playing Seth, and I think that kind of thing is really fun in a game like Tag, because everyone looks at this game like baby game, do auto combo, you win, hoorah, but there's a lot more to it than that. And yeah, Seth is not the same character he was in Uni, but he doesn't have to be. It's a completely different person, and I think that's kind of cool. I know it's a bit of a tangent there, but it did kind of lean into how my playstyle was affected by the characters that were in Tag, because I don't think I would have looked into more movement-based characters if I didn't start playing Blake, start playing Seth, and it kind of just embodied the way that I started looking at defense and offense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that summarizes that decently well.
Yeah, at least for me, Mito, it was like I won't lie, and I think I've mentioned this before. It was definitely like a culture shock, I guess is the best word I can use, of just like of your general shift in character choices, because never in a million years would I think you would be playing Blake and Seth. And I think even you yourself, like if you, as you mentioned, like if you look to your past self and just like look at what you are now, it's very much it's like it's a very different like type of character choice that you would want to have. And like I guess like if you could theorize why your brain shifted over from enjoying more I can't necessarily like say sedentary, but more mid-rangey. Yeah, I mean, look, when I think of when I think of Weiss, sometimes I just think of specifically Lotad putting up like walls everywhere and just zoning with Weiss. So I guess it's like I guess that's why I would think about it. I have such a distinct mental image of Weiss's playstyle in my head, even though it's wrong of just Lotad doing that, that it's affected the way I look at the character. I just think of her as a sedentary character. But I digress. But like, yeah, if you had to kind of like theorize why like that shift in your mindset happened of preferring having that mobility over like the more mid-rangey sword characters that like a lot of people used to associate with, why do you think that happened outside of just like experimenting and finding it fun?
Hmm. I think I have to think about that a little bit. Um, well, I mentioned earlier how my thought process shifted from being ultra passive, defensive, and trying to block everything out and just like wearing out my opponent with the mental shift to having a bit more of a balance of both. And I could definitely see that, Seth and Blake don't necessarily have the best defensive options, and that does kind of hinder that thought process. But at the same time, it also forces you to make better decisions when you're on defense, because if you don't, you're going to die faster. And I think that also plays a good bit into why I feel that was the case. Because, Seth is not an easy character to play. I know I already went on this tangent, but what I mean is that you can't make as many mistakes just because his routing is a little bit harder. He forces you to go about defense and offense in such a way to where if you're doing anything, I'm sorry. I was looking at something on the side and I got sidetracked. But if you're doing anything, if you're doing anything besides, playing as perfectly as you can, then you're setting yourself up to potentially be within the realm of failure, with having the opportunity to be dropped into this like scramble situation where you could very easily just eat a fucking armored lariat. Fuck you, Heart. And just eat 12k because you decided to slam your face on the controller, and it definitely makes a difference in how you view things. It also allowed me to approach neutral in a different way, because over time I started realizing part of the problem I had with being able to defend for this long or do all of these things that I wanted to do is because people are calling assist constantly in neutral. These motherfuckers are just like up back 4Ping. They're they're sitting here on the screen looking at it like, oh man, I'm just gonna do what the fuck I want because I have an assist behind it. I think Seth and Blake are particularly good at like not only maneuvering around the assist where it's necessary, but they can put themselves in a position where they're able to like smack the assist when necessary. If someone's doing some dumb shit on wake up, you could kill him for it a lot faster, or at the very least put yourself in a better position to be able to answer them. And I think that was part of the reason I did what I did. Like Seth especially, that fucking 5A is ridiculous. That button is so good. And you could stuff so many things with it. And it led to me playing in a different way than I usually do. Because what I typically do when playing is, oh, I'm just gonna sit on the ground, wait for you to call your assist, and I'm just gonna like move around it. But obviously you can't always do that. A good example, you play against Hilda Neo, a person I've been particularly playing against a lot. We all know Menatame, man of many names. Um, he likes to just super jump plus 4P because it shifts the camera forward. And when the camera shifts forward, there's less room to move. And therefore, the 40% screen space that Hilda 4P takes up ends up being the entire screen. And it becomes a lot harder to maneuver around that if you don't have a character that could explicitly hit Hilda when she's doing that. And I think Seth is very good at dealing with that sort of thing. Obviously, he's not Ruby. He doesn't have a 10 frame that hits behind her. But it's good enough to where I could position myself and be comfortable with the idea of what I'm doing. And I think that led to a good bit of change with that, because it leans more towards that balance idea I've been having in my head for a little while. I'm able to chill here and move around the screen and understand where I want to be at all times, and it gives me a better idea of how I can use that to transition into offense and make something out of nothing, I suppose is the best way to phrase it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I think it's very much the case that Blake and Seth are generally more proactive characters. Like obviously you can play Seth really lame. Same thing with Blake, interestingly enough, but like they have so much mobility that they can be played in a aggressive, like somewhat flexible way. I guess for you, Mito, do you appreciate the fact that Seth and Blake are kind of flexible like that? Because I know you like Hyde because of he's kind of John everything, but do you find that you kind of jive with um a more, I guess, holistic play style of Blake and Seth even outside of their more proactive options?
Hmm. Yeah, actually, now that I like think about it and looked up what holistic meant, by the way, I'm fucking stupid. Um, I definitely think they balance off each other pretty well. Um, like, yeah, like we mentioned earlier, Hyde is the kind of character that, John everything, able to do whatever he wants for the most part. He's limited by the constricts of the game, but that doesn't really stop him from being able to put himself in whatever situation. But obviously, he can't move around the screen. He doesn't have the best aerials, so he can't, you know, always stop Hart from being a little bitch. Um,
This video is gonna be very dated, by the way.
Look, the Hart hate is never going to date. Okay,
I
that
can't
character deserves. Go ahead.
I can't speak on this matter.
That character deserves to be crucified. Thank God we're making changes in 3.0. Full bias showing, by the way. Um, but no, yeah, like I definitely think that Blake and Seth kind of embody the other side of the whole spectrum of being able to balance things, because while Hyde is able to reflect the past me that was very I'm gonna sit on the ground and wait for you to fuck up kind of thing. Seth and Blake do the other spectrum of that, where I'm just gonna annoy the shit out of you by moving around the screen and threatening you at various ranges that other characters might not be able to. And I'm gonna use the tools that Hyde provides in order to accentuate that game plan,
Mhm.
which I think definitely embodies that sort of thing. Got the irony of both kind of characters in it. While Hyde is the past me, Seth and Blake are the new me.
Mhm.
As corny as that sounds.
We be praying for Sona out there, Shadow Mido, and it's just Hyde with the yellow eyes.
Wait, that's literally just the trailer though that we fucking made.
Oh my god, you knew. You fought in your true self. Hyde's the persona. But yeah, I that's very enlightening, just to kind of hear your mentality on playing these new characters because like I said before, it was very actively jarring to see you pick up those characters, but like with everything that you said, it makes sense with the way that you kind of change your mindset and your general playstyle with tag that you would naturally gravitate towards different characters. I have to ask both of you, even though I think for cheap I know the answer to this question. If you were to like go back in time and learn a different character as your kind of primary one, would you?
No, I would say
Mm-hmm.
like I I mean I well okay. When we're saying like primary one, are we talking specifically tag or just like in general? Because if this is just in general, this is going back to like Blaze Blue proper for me.
Okay. We'll say tag. Like
Okay.
for some specification, I'm sure like cheap your Ragna and then Mito you like your eye.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We'll
Yeah,
just
no, I wouldn't.
we'll stick with
I
tag.
wouldn't change that at all.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Mito?
Probably not. No. I mentioned earlier that I have an emotional attachment to Hyde. I think I love that character more than any character in any fighting game ever. I could play Hyde in Uni all I want. He's not the same. He's not the
Mm-hmm.
character that I grew to, become the player I was. Um, so not even just because I think I would be able to like progress my playstyle differently. I think I just like Hyde more. Like I wouldn't give away the character that I enjoy that much for anything really.
Yeah, yeah. I think all three of us in here are very much like character loyalists. Um, like I'm very much with like cheap. I usually pick characters based off fives. I mean, that's why I picked Ori in the first place. And like, funnily enough, I think one part of my own personal play style is that I always pick a character that like vibes with me visually. I mean, that's like the very much the reason why I made Ori Yukiko. It's just like those are the two characters that I like the most. They're the cutest waifus, as the kids would say, or something. Um, and like I've kind of morphed my play style around those um around those characters in the general way that they would play. And just using their tools to fit what mentally fits me the most. And I have to ask you two, do you guys have that general feelings of picking this character because you like them, but kind of morphing what their tools are, or what tools they have into your own general style of how you want to play the game. I guess to specify like rather than like the other way around where like where your character's tool affect the way that your play style is.
I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Could you like retool that a bit differently?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was like
okay.
trying to parse that my best I could too.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me see if I can like rephrase this. So like um how do I say this in a like I guess a more simplistic term? So like do you think that when you learn a character, you try to fit more so what I guess the devs may have intended their playstyle. Like, let's say for you pick a rushdown character and you try to be as aggressive as possible, right? That's the general like I mentality that the devs probably intended for that character, right? They design a rushdown character, they design them to be played in a certain way. Do you think your playstyle revolves around that general intention behind the character, or do you see the tools that you are set in front of you and you understand how you want to play, and even regardless of how they might have intended you play, you instead try to use their tools in a way that fits you, regardless of like dev intent? That's I guess what I'm kind of trying to get at.
I think I understand what you're getting at. I so long as it's like not like I have to like now I'm trying to figure out how to phrase my answer for this, but um I think so long as I'm not going too far out of my way to do that, I think that that applies. Yeah, I mean, um, because there's a vast like there's all sorts of Ragna players in SoCal. We all have a different way of playing Ragna. So I think, like, for me personally, yeah, I kind of play how he's intended to. Actually, no, I very much play how he's intended to. What am I saying? But sometimes, like, I do just like do things that I'm just like, I know this probably isn't how they intended this move to be used, but I'm doing it anyways. Like, who the hell does Air Gauntlet Hades like I do? Who does that?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody at all. So it's just like, there are some times where it's just like, yeah, I'll use a tool that they have that probably they didn't mean for it to be used this way because nobody expects that. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects the Air Gauntlet Hades. Nobody does
God,
that.
you're so
So it's
old.
just like, fuck off.
I know that reference too, and I'm younger.
It's Monty Python. Who doesn't know Monty Python?
You would be surprised. But
That's
yeah, my
crazy.
bad. Continue.
Anyways, fuck off. Anyways, so but yeah, no, it's just like yeah, so long as I'm not going too far out of my way to do that, to like use the tools differently, yeah, I'd say I do that 100%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about you, Mido?
I really think that kind of thing is kind of stupid, honestly. Like, if a character is designed a certain way and they end up being used in a different way, or at least if I use them in a different way, that's fine. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think there's any sort of way to look at a character that's if Hyde is a Shoto and he ended up being this Omega aggro rushdown because the tools that he was provided were a lot better for that role than being a more defensive character like he is now. I feel like that's generally just something I'm chill with because that's just how a character develops. That's what makes fighting games fun. If a
Mm-hmm.
character was always stuck within the archetype that they were chosen to, then we wouldn't have all of the cool exceptions that we do nowadays. Do people look at Soul and think that's a fucking Shoto? No. That character is an enigma of fucking fighting game characters. You can't call him a rushdown because he has a lot of different tools that make up other archetypes. But he plays like a rushdown. And people were arguing the semantics on this for God knows how long. But he's really fucking cool. Like
Mm-hmm.
every part of Soul is probably one of the coolest things ever. There's a reason why Soul is so beloved to this day. Or like, not even going that far. Let's talk about like Akatsuki. Akatsuki is supposed to be a Shoto. And I think he's the very embodiment of the kind of example that I gave with Hyde. He ended up being this Omega Rushdown character, turn off your brain, just 8 Hatsu in the air plus assist kind of thing. Why is that character have good movement? Why the fuck is he schmoving?
He
Like,
needs it.
I fucking guess so. Like, I think. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, just to put in the words of Arxis, by the way, in the character trailer, is an honest character. Never forget that. Never forget that. Akatsuki is an honest character. That's how
This
they
is
phrased it.
this is just like when they nerfed DJ in SF4.
God.
Oh
You
man,
got
DJ was
needled. What was that?
dude, the mic peaking was so fucking good.
God.
Okay, what the fuck was that?
I don't know. Tell me, what did you hear?
No, it's not important. It's not important. I'm not trying to derail your conversation. But yeah, like the fact of the matter is, if a character ends up developing another way, or if I end up playing a character a different way than what they're intended to be, I think that's really cool. And I don't really have a preconceived notion of how a character is supposed to be played, and I think that's how it should be.
Hmm. Yeah, that's kind of generally like why I wanted to ask that question because like it it's and kind of the reason I wanted to podcast is like there's so many play styles out there and it's hard to necessarily quantify them into neat little categories, and a lot of it has to do with just player expression and using the tools in maybe ways like they weren't intended to necessarily, because game development's hard and you can't account for everything. And I think that's like one of the beautiful things um about fighting games is it's very much like it's the biggest embodiment of here are the tools, you get to decide what to do with them, even if like I don't know, like here I'll give you a hammer, you're supposed to bonk nails with it, but instead like I don't know, you open your fridge with it instead, like that's an awful example, by the way. However, I think it gets the point across of just using like tools in a very unintended way to like really have a unique style and all that type of jazz. Even if you line up more with what they intended to, there's always going to be that unique variation between players, which makes things beautiful. And like at least for me, for me personally, like I've always considered myself one of the more aggressive Yukiko players. The character is completely designed to be a zoner, but I'm just like, well, I mean, I like being in your face, even though like they are a zoner. I just use the projectile as a way to get in, and I think even Arxis kind of realized that with like characters like Rachel, who are zoner, rushdown archetypes, and just generally how you can mix and match certain things together in order to like make something new. So yeah, I think I agree with you, Mito, that it's a bit restraining to think about characters as a sole archetype to be adhered to. And some characters are less flexible than others, of course, but yeah, just trying to find your own way with certain things is kind of the beauty of fighting games.
Yeah, 2000% agreed. That I think we're definitely handshaking on that one. It's kind of funny that we mentioned Akatsuki now that we think about it, because like, oh, we mentioned Akatsuki was explained as an honest character when the trailers first came out. I don't think they imagined that Akatsuki would become an unblockable simulator, the character. They probably didn't test that shit. Like if we were testing shit, then I don't think we would have had some of the tools that we did. Like Bezio wouldn't be the way that it is. Yumi probably would have had a -4 6A. Like all of the above. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it definitely lended credence towards the idea that characters are designed a certain way, and they're definitely not always going to lean there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's it's such a difficult thing to really quantify, because I think I mentioned earlier, when it comes to play styles, we as humans have a very specific, and like we like things to be very basic. So like we come up with categories when it comes to characters, and we come with categories when it comes to play styles. And like, most players in actuality aren't super restrained by those ideas, but even for me, I described Mito as being very defensive, and like Cheap is very more offensive and rush down and like in your face, and like that's that contrast is there, even though over the course, this podcast you're recording, you guys have parallels to each other's mindsets and to each other's playstyles within your differences. And this brings me to one of the things that I might be a little cursed, might be a little fun that I want to do. I want you two to describe each other's playstyles and what you think goes on in each other's heads, because that's one of the things that I had planned for this that I didn't want to talk about. But like, yeah, like you two have such different ways that um you guys look into the game, but have those parallels. And I want you guys just to talk with each other's and just talk with each other about how you think the other person thinks and how that might parallel and contrast with how you play. Because I think there are probably more or maybe even less differences than maybe that you two might have thought about the way that you play. So I'm very curious. I'm very curious to hear what you guys think.
Hmm.
So, I'm sorry, question before we actually do that. Wouldn't it have been better to, start with that so that we wouldn't have heard each other explain our thought processes, so it'd be like a little more compelling with that?
I mean, we have to do the introduction and all that stuff too, but I want you to discuss more of the nuances of it. Like you guys have a general, even before this, you guys have a general basic understanding of how you two play, right? But I
Mhm.
think it's about
Hmm.
more the specific nitty gritty of your two's mindset. Because like, yeah, like I am sure that you and we both me don't know that she prefers playing more aggressively, but maybe you don't exactly know why he does the decisions that they want to do and like all that type of jazz, which is more so the meat of the question, the reason why I want you two to like theorize with each other of why you guys play. And I think you can use that general preamble to kind of lay some foundations instead of just spitballing too and just trying to rationalize each other's general play styles, and put it in your own words more importantly, because I think that is the a good under that's a um good way to show that you understand how a person is playing and understanding it, which I get where you're coming from. It might have been funnier to like just let you all to the wolves and have zero preamble, but I think some baseline understanding is important. And like, if you want me to like guide a specific scenarios, because I have one big thing to come in mind, I can do that. But if you want to have a more free form discussion about all that, and it can just be kind of a fly in the wall, that's up to you. I'll give you maybe a minute or two to kind of think about it if you want, or if you can get into it. That's up to you. You guys are my guests.
I
Mm,
mean, I'd like to hear the scenario you have in mind, actually, personally. I don't know how
Okay.
Mito feels.
About how about you, Mito?
Yeah, I'm chill with that. Let's do it.
All right, let's talk about cross combo.
Oh boy. Oh
Okay,
boy.
I know where this is going.
Okay.
Which one of you wants to describe how the other person uses cross combo, or even just assist and partner mechanics
Mi-
in general? Because I'll
Mito's
say
answer is
straight,
gonna be so easy, bro. Come on. This is not fair.
I want to hear it from Mito, and more
Oh
importantly,
man.
why too? Because I think the way you use it is very easy, but the way that the why you use it isn't. And I think me and Cheap have talked about this, but I don't know if Mito and Cheap have talked about it. So that's why I'm very curious about about it. I mean, either you can start off on each other.
Mm, okay, well, I guess just to get it like decently started, cheap is incredibly simple when it comes to that sort of thing. Um, I guess we'll start with how he uses it first. It's funny. I was talking with him about a specific player the other day. I think it was Lord Host of Dong, and we were talking about how he's like just really good fundamentally,
Mhm.
but he never engaged with the system. And Sheep is not necessarily just not engaging with the system, but he definitely plays in a way that's more reminiscent of I'm just gonna out neutral you and like have better fundies, and I'm just gonna occasionally call assist to be a nuisance. And I feel like that definitely applies here. You know, the way he calls assist in neutral is let's say he ends Ragna's block string with like a 2C, for example, because he wants to threaten a 214A maybe as a frame trap, or you know anything of that regard to put me into a thought process where oh fuck I gotta sit here. He will like jump at me with let's say he's playing Ragna Mika. He'll jump at me with Mika 6B because that character has an intrinsic threat that's just gonna be sitting on the screen. Um, he'll do like a super jump forward, especially if I'm not in the corner. He'll just like try and set up a sandwich because as soon as Ragna's behind me, it's kind of annoying to do anything with that. And he doesn't really like even try to set up a left right from it like most of the time. It's just a matter of I want to annoy the shit out of you here, and I feel like he definitely does a good job of that because you kind of underestimate how far some normals go when they happen. Like I cannot begin to describe the amount of times that fucking Mika 4P has hit me from half screen despite me not extending a hurt box in any capacity. And that sort of thing just kind of lends credence to the whole idea of how Cheap, at least in my mind, goes about playing with his assist and just doing cross combo stuff. Because it's not like he's, never doing CC mix because he's actually been a lot better about setting that sort of stuff up recently. The most recent set that we played, I think he did it like at least 3 or 4 times. Like he used the intrinsic respect that I gave him on block to jump over me with assist, like I mentioned earlier, but then like actually do a CC with it. And that's definitely something he's gotten better at. But I would say that he's still more in the context of I want to control the pace of the match, and if I'm not running at you with Ragna, then I'm just gonna do it in this slightly different way to throw you off a little. And man, if fucking Gauntlet Hades was not there, I would not care as much. I guarantee you, I would not care as much. But I can't blog, man. I can't do it. I'm
Uh,
struggling.
it hey, it hits me too, all right? Person who does it can get hit by it as well. So it's just I'm not infallible.
Mm.
Yeah. How about you, Chief? How would you describe the way Mito uses like the general like CC system mechanics, like assists, like all the partner systems basically?
I would say Mito uses them to the fullest. Like, it's very rarely that I've seen Mito be in a situation where, if they end up losing a character that they're not in, at the very least, Resonance level 3. Like, they're utilizing it to the full extent of, like, keeping, you know, pressure, keeping neutral, like let's say again, like in this scenario, like is playing like Hyde Seth. So the 6P, the orb assist, constantly like being there, just like as a threat to make like some things that wouldn't ordinarily be safer, or utilizing Seth 5P just to like set up a free sandwich, put me in the mix, cross combo activation after that, or active swap just to keep it like without using all those resources, stuff like that. I would say it goes into what Mito said earlier as well about liking to play like characters that control like mid range, like kind of being in control of the situation, where they want to keep that pressure, keep you kind of like in their box, like to for lack of a better term, like to just keep you in their box, in their zone, so that they can keep running their game plan and you have very little options to get out of it, if there even is one, like besides like just holding the situation. um and I've always seen Mito as a very methodical player, like somebody who really like does things like kind of by the book, kind of really focusing on the data, the and like the practical applications of like a lot of moves, a lot of situations, and just like using that knowledge to the fullest. Um, and they're really strong. Like they're like really good about doing that as well. And I've always felt like whenever I'm in like in neutral situations, I have to really be very careful because they also know my buttons. They know like a lot of that data. They know that. So it's just like they're very aware of spacing of ranges and utilizing their moves, their assists, and the system mechanics to really play around things that a lot of the time for me like ordinarily like catch people like that aren't really thinking about it to that degree. So like even though she complains about Gauntlet Hades, it's still just like a situation just like, well, she does get hit by it, but sometimes she blocks it, she counters it, and I'm just like, I probably have to second guess myself about using that as often as I usually do. But then sometimes situation doesn't work out how it does for me or for her, and then that throws a wrench into things. So but I would say Mido that's my interpretation of how Mido uses system mechanics, cross combo, etc. Just very methodical, very practiced and thoughtful in their decision making with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's at least from my perspective, like that I think you two do a very accurate job of describing each other's like general CC mentality. I mean, you tell me. That's right.
I mean, personally, I do think Mido hit a lot of points on the head, like really accurate in terms of just like, I kind of want to just like be in your face. I want to annoy you. I want to make like see you crack, essentially. Just like, are you gonna like try to super out of this? Are you gonna DP? Are you sure you want to do that with what I've got? All right, but sometimes I'm just like, yeah, I'll just throw it out. I'll just see how they react to it. Like sometimes like I don't do this as much as I should, but sometimes whenever I throw out a 6P with Mika, and then I see you like you're getting you're crouching and you're getting ready to anti-air it, I like cross combo activation hit you with the super, but I don't do that as often as I probably should because you always try to do that. But sometimes I'm just like seeing like, okay, are they aware of it? Are they like kind of like not sleeping at the wheel?
Mm-hmm. How about you, Midi? Do you think Cheap did a good job explaining your general like mindset and playstyle when it comes to just using the partner system?
I like to think that he did. I don't have a lot of confidence when it comes to how I go about these sort of things. I remember explaining earlier that, a lot of the problems I have with my current playstyle are that I'm not executing on the things that I want to do properly. And that definitely reflects, especially when I play with Cheap, because I get in my head a lot with that sort of thing, and regardless of how well my intents are, they don't always necessarily show in the match. So I appreciate the fact that you're, looking at the intent itself and are trying to give credit to that. But I definitely feel as if the full game plan isn't quite there yet. And I don't feel like it's as methodical as it should be at the moment.
Makes sense. And, you're in the process of kind of shifting over your general way that you play. So there's always going to be growing pains like that. Um, when you try to learn something like new for the first time, and it's it's always been very interesting. I wanted to bring CC up specifically because that is like the biggest aspect in which you two differ, and like more so referring like to intent. Like like Cheap is so notorious for not using system mechanics that when he hits level 4 resonance, the entire call goes like, Cheap, what's wrong with you?
I know what's wrong with me, honestly. Like, how did I get here? What is
Yeah.
happening? How did this happen?
Yeah, and like I think like I said, intent there too. Like Mito, you were very much you have that you seek to be methodical and utilize your tools to the best of your abilities. And I think it's very interesting because of how different they are, and just there's very much pros and cons to both. And I think one of the things that, like, I guess is unironically, I think maybe harder for some people to understand when it comes to Cheap's relatively basic play style is the whole idea of, like, he's not making the best use of things, but he's still winning. I think for a lot of people that can be very confusing for some people, and one of the things I want to bring up about specifically like that playstyle that Cheeps has that I think we've discussed about is the mental stack and how generally limited it is compared to a more methodical playstyles. And I'll go briefly into the pros and cons of both. Like more methodical players, they're very knowledgeable, they know what to do in most interactions, and if they don't know, they lab it and they get through it, and they have that ability to do the optimal choice there in that situation. But there's a lot of mental calculus going on there, and when the split second decisions have to be made, it can be a lot harder unless you've practiced it for like hours and hours and hours and hours. Whereas, a more feels play style that, like, more basic play style that, like, um that Cheap kind of implements, it's like, yeah, sure, not necessarily the labbing is there and the perfect option isn't established, and that can most certainly screw you over in a lot of scenarios. But when a like kind of novel or quick second decision does need to be made, there's not a lot of that mental stack there. Um, and yeah, I just want to hear your two's opinions about that general, like, kind of, um, I guess, contrast, and just that general, those pros and cons, and how that fits into your general mindset, and how, um, it really affects you two as players. Because I definitely see, like, I see that in, like, basically perfectly when it comes to you two, those kind of just like give and takes with your general, the way that you want to operate with the game.
Are we still answering for the other person, or is this back to just like talking about ourselves?
Yeah, you can answer for the other person too. I'm gonna have you guys talk about it from your own perspective, of course, when that time comes. But hey, if you want to kind of theorize why these things are a certain way, um or your own different observations from my own, like, feel free to.
Hmm. Okay. Um, that's actually a pretty difficult question. Like I'm thinking about
Yeah,
it
I'm,
and I'm
I'm,
like
I'm
not
having to
100%
think about
sure.
this too, actually.
Um,
Yeah, if you want to describe your own general mindset, that's fine to start off and kind of bounce off on how that differs. That's preferable.
I think that would probably be easier to start things off.
Hmm.
Still have to kind of get my thoughts in order on that, though. Hmm.
Take your time. We're not in any rush, but in the meantime, it's just an hour and a half long. I gotta thank anyone that has been watching the Loncast so far. A pretty unique episode, I think, in terms of the topics being covered. And of course, I really think the contrast between, like, Mido and Cheap is, like, something that really is, like, it can be fascinating. Makes it sound a little too, like, exotic, but it really is, like, in terms of just like the way you two just generally operate in the game.
Would you say we're both interesting specimens indeed?
oh my God, bro. Why is that catching on?
I couldn't resist the opportunity. I'm sorry. It was just too perfect. It was too perfect.
Out of everything to come out of the direct, why was that the thing that stuck? Uh,
you're cursed forever just to be the person that described the tag scene as interesting specimens.
Wait, is that how people take it? Like, do people think that that's just like a basic description of the tag scene?
No, I don't necessarily think so, but it could be construed in that way.
That's really funny, and we can unpack that later.
Yeah.
But um, so I guess if we're starting with the other person's like whole playstyle and like the pros and cons of it, I would definitely say that there's not BB Tag's a very freeform game. You could kind of play this game however you want. And yeah, that applies to most fighting games, but I definitely feel like BB Tag opens that avenue quite a bit. BB Tag is really good at that sort of thing, so I don't really think that there's as many flaws with other playstyles as you might think. We could go into the objective stuff, like, you know, not using the system mechanics as much does open you up to people who are extremely hyper aggressive and are able to cover big parts of the screen in flashes of a moment. You know, if like Red Blade was on the screen, for example, and he was playing Seth Hilda, and he just like set up orb, fast fell into 214 PA. Like, what the fuck is she's gonna have a little bit of a hard time with that. You know, just because there's not a lot of room for error in that sort of playstyle. Or if he's fighting someone like, you know, Elon, an inherently zoner playstyle with a bunch of zoner characters. Rogna doesn't do that well into that, and I think that matchup matters more when we're talking about, you know, a person that's playing more 1v1 centric, because it lends a lot lends okay, it lends a lot more of like the faults with the character that wouldn't be as present if we were using the assists to their fullest to become more prevalent and rear their ugly head more often than they otherwise would. And I definitely think that does play a big part of it. It also just kind of removes the mental stack that could potentially be there. Because there's something to be said about someone that's confident in their solo game with the character, and I definitely think that Cheap is probably one of the master classes when it comes to that sort of thing. But there's also a lot to be said about someone that could throw themselves with an assist and immediately put you in a four-way that nobody is blocking consistently, no matter how good you are at the game. I feel like you're leaving a lot on the table when it comes to that sort of thing. And if you're unable to swap between both of them, then it'll lead to a lot of situations where your pressure can feel a bit more linear when it comes to characters that don't have a can opener. Yeah, you know, fucking Rogna on my screen. You know, it's a little harder to make this argument when I just kind of run at you. And, you know, he always has the threat of a jump cancelable on block overhead. Which I know you can crouch it, but like just to make it sound worse than it is and make you seem like a bitch. But yeah,
Gotta put you through this somehow.
yeah, no, I have to slander you in some way. You know, it balances out. But
I appreciate it.
But yeah, no, I definitely think that your playstyle is unique, and that's a good thing. We need more unique playstyles. But I do think what it lacks in terms of character not expression, that's not the right word I'm looking for. In terms of using your characters to the fullest extent, I think that makes a big difference when it comes to players that are going to be able to not give a shit about whether or not you're good at, you know, playing fundamentally. If you're playing against 9 Yumi and you get knocked down once with 9 into an unblockable, I don't fucking care how good you are at the game. Like, you're not Ryojin, buddy. You're not getting out of that, okay? It's just it's GG's. It's over. But if you were able to utilize the system mechanics in a way that allowed you to maneuver around them a little bit more, not efficiently, but just to put more things on the screen so that the 9 Yumi player wouldn't feel as comfortable doing the things that they were in order to put you in that situation to begin with, it would give a lot more room for error, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a fair interpretation, I would say.
Yeah. How about you, Chief? How do you think about Mito's general play style and the ups and downs of it?
I mean, as I said before, it's very methodical. It's very much using system mechanics to uh, a very good extent. Maybe not to the fullest, but to a very very good extent. And as they said as well, this game is very freeform. Like it a lot of different types of playstyles can just flourish in this sort of game. So no one playstyle is going to be perfect. No one playstyle is going to be like, stand out amongst all the others. It's a very much a melting pot in terms of like the players and how they play. And that being said, I feel like with how Mito plays the game, it is a type of play style I have seen a lot, especially like once you get like to mid and higher level players. Like it is a type of play style that really, once you've seen, a lot of the time you've seen it from someone else, and it's doesn't lend itself to being unique, which in a way is a con, because it's like, all right, well, I've seen how someone like this plays before, so I kind of know in a lot of ways what to expect in terms of how to approach them, how to really navigate a lot of the time around, like, how they're using assists or something like that. Like it takes like maybe a game, maybe two at most, to like really get an idea if someone's like using them, like how someone's using them. But overall it's just kind of like, okay, I've seen this, I know how this works. This isn't something that's like throwing off like, uh, my data sets or something like that. So it, that's like something I feel like is, again, not necessarily a fault, but just like something that is just like, well, because it's not necessarily that unique, it's not something that's going to really throw someone off if they're experienced. So, granted, I'm saying all this, it's still capable of putting you in the mix. It's still capable of like getting you, like getting the job done, putting you in situations you'd rather not be. It's just a matter of navigating it. But, let's say you're playing against somebody who just who doesn't care about frame data, doesn't care about anything like that. They're just going to do what they want. Then it's just like, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what they're going to be doing on wake up. You don't know if they're going to actually, like, you use assist, use like, some kind of reversal option. They're going to just flip a coin. They're going to spin a wheel. They're going to do what they want, and they do not care about safe jumps, about anything like that. So sometimes I think the methodical player is like that sort of playstyle that Mito has is very threatening. But sometimes I feel more scared of the person who just dice rolls, because I don't know what's going on in their head. But I do know what's going on a lot of the time in someone like Mito's.
Mm-hmm. How would you assess that, Mito?
I find that intriguing to hear, just because I mentioned it earlier, but the reason I established the way that I play today, because I wanted to be able to do something that would work no matter the kind of player I fight against. The kind of person, I don't care if they're dice rolling, I don't care if they're fucking, goo goo babies over there.
Okay.
I don't really care who they are. I want to be able to, feel comfortable playing into them regardless. So I feel like it's more an issue of the player as a whole rather than the playstyle itself causing any sort of issues. And I feel like that's something I'm just gonna have to work on my own. But that's probably somewhere we can disagree to disagree.
Yeah, that makes sense, and it's interesting to hear your two's perspective on just there's a constant, I think, I can't really call it a debate, but I guess like schism in the fighting game communities between player by feels and player by I don't know, like data, like more methodical, I guess is the word that we're using. And it's there's been like plot lines made in the fighting game scene versus like the the guy that knows everything versus the guy that does not give a fuck if you know everything, basically. Which kind of paints that in the picture that like um I guess like the person that just like plays by feels is generally like better at the game, quote unquote. I've seen that general kind of argument within the scene in general. And like personally speaking, I find it a difference, not something that's like superior or one is like one like necessarily like, works harder than the other type of deal. And that's that kind of applies in real life too, where like people are considered like more feels based are kind of like lumped in the category of like having natural skill and are like more generally I guess propped up in that way socially, but at the same time kind of have that feeling of like other people being like, well, he doesn't work as hard type of deal. um a bit of a side tangent too, but like, do you feel that way of like, do you see that when it comes to like your general like, I guess stereotyping that like you're seen as a like more or less like hardworking player because of your play style?
I shout outs to Sagem, by the way. I'll say this because he had a video like talking about this specifically, and the quote that I took from that video is it sums it up pretty well. Some people want like their fighting game like some people want their playstyle to be like something they can put on Instagram. Like all prettied up, all done, like looking looking very detailed, like meticulously crafted and all that. Other people just want to put it on World Star. Like they don't care. They're going to do what they want, and it's going to be as rough and tumble as it can be. But if it gets the job done, it gets the job done. And I I I never I kind of have the same like thought as you where it's just like I don't feel like any one of those is superior in any way. I think there's differences. You know, there's people can look at it one way or another, but I never thought of it as how you said like oh like the person who plays by feels like has like more talent or something like that rather than the person who put in the work, quote unquote, for you know being meticulous and like doing all this. I feel like it's one play style shouldn't be held up above another. I think because of how fighting games work and how like tag especially works, I think if you have a play style that you can make work and like serve what you need it to do and find success in that, I think that's the most important thing that matters.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Mita? What do you think?
Cheap described that in a very succinct way. He put it not only in a way that naturally would befit someone that's so unique in terms of playstyle, but it doesn't generalize anyone either. And I think I'm going to take it a step further. I think if anyone is focusing on other people's play styles and how they play, I think you're wasting your time. Genuinely, it should never matter how someone else is playing. If you're getting to the point where someone else's playstyle is getting to you in such a way to where it's going to affect your own play, then that's on you. That's your fault. You were the problem. You need to look inward and figure out what you're doing wrong to do so. And it took me a long time to internalize that kind of thing because oh my god, I used to say some shit behind a screen against some players. I still do, but it's like not for the same reasons. Before it was like, oh, you fucking scumbag, you play grapplers, you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you're just pressing the fucking funny thing, just like calling it like it's a slur. But now I just like whenever I'm getting mad about that sort of thing, it's because oh man, I'm fucking this shit up a little bit. I messed up the execution, and this guy did the thing that I was trying to beat, and that pissed me off. Or oh my god, why did that thing that they did work as opposed to what I was trying to do that would naturally beat this thing? It's for different reasons, which not too important, but I think it's more prevalent to improving as a player. If you're going to try and improve, then you need to look at those things and what you're doing wrong more frequently than what they're doing as a whole. Who the fuck cares? I remember watching a specific video. I think it was SFL for Street Fighter 6 like year 1, back when people didn't know who the fuck Oil King was. Um I remember he had a specific quote. I could be wrong on the person, by the way. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But I remember he said something during those interviews. He was talking about, he was asked, "Oh, like well, what do you think about these players you're about to fight here? Because all of them could pose a big threat to you." And he specifically said, "I try not to focus on the players. I just focus on the match that's in front of me." He said it in a different way than that, but the general thought process behind it of I don't really give a shit about the player matchup. I'm just gonna do what I think would be best against the character in particular. And that stuck with me because I think that's actually a really good way of looking at it. Why bother wasting the mental space on someone's playstyle that isn't really gonna give you the time of day to really get to the point you want to be? Like why waste your mental effort when you're probably not even doing your safe jump right anyway? Fucking fix yourself first. And I feel like that's more important.
Yeah, like I definitely like agree with both of you of just like it's hard to it's hard for me to equate like the way someone operates when it comes to like fighting games or like even anything else in the world and just like equate it to like an assertion of like effort or like skill or something like that. At the end of the day, if it gets the job done, it gets the job done. And it's a little unfortunate that some people kind of um view like I guess perceived effort as such a impactful thing when it comes to like evaluating people. And I think playstyles um definitely fall into that category, and the whole like player by feel or players that are more methodical type of deal, where it's just like at the end of the day, both players historically have succeeded with both those types of mentalities and play styles. And if anything too, are incorporating both into their general mindset. And it goes back to what we say, play styles and like mentalities, they can't be fit into like a perfect into perfect categories at all. But yeah, it's 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 very it's still, regardless, it's very fun to see just or I guess more specifically fun to analyze the differences in the methodical versus feels type of players, because it's so apparent, at least to like for somebody like me that like really likes to pay attention to like the nitty gritty of tag, of just like it's so apparent the type of people who play by feels and play more methodically. And it's a very much a beauty of of the game. uh and it's like I guess it can kind of segue into another discussion that I might that I want to have. And it's just like, you guys have your own personal play styles, but in terms of being like a spectator or someone like just watching the game, do you think you gravitate more towards players that are like you, or is it more like an opposite type of deal where you prefer watching people that are, that are different from you?
Um I mean, I could give you the answer that I want to say, like, oh, I value everyone fucking the same, but like,
We
no,
all
it's just not
have
true.
we all have
It's
our
just not true.
preferences, you know.
It
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that yeah.
Like it'd be a lie to say that to your face. It's just not true. But like, I feel like I prefer to watch players that maybe not that I've taught, but that I've watched grow to a specific point, not necessarily for any sort of playstyle. Like, I don't really mind if you're batshit insane. If you're still taking stuff away from like what you're doing and trying to learn from it, and then I see that improvement later down the line. Hell, as an example, Mr. Chumfi here, you know,
Same.
he he when we first started talking, he was a lot more simple when it came to doing his enders. I remember he used to do Ragna 5 BB like delay jump into IAD a lot. I started criticizing him for that. I'm like, dude, that ender sucks dick. Stop doing it. And then at some point I showed him the 236B ender, and then he started doing that. And just watching him do it, and suddenly he started getting better Oki off of everything. I'm like, oh my god, bro. This is so heat. And again, it doesn't have to be someone that I've helped in any capacity, because I feel like it's a bit, narcissistic. I just like watching people grow. And I feel like that's ultimately what I value when it comes to watching players. Menatame, fucking Sony Kun, all of these players that I was shitting on Sony Kun earlier, by the way. Like, all of these players that have grown so much from their prior instances, I feel like are so much more interesting to watch, even if I don't fuck with their playstyle, because they're actively trying to make things better. They're looking towards how to become the player that they want to be, and I think that's pretty inspirational.
Yeah. I think like well, it's not like you said, it's not a play style thing, but it's 100% like a mindset thing. Just to have that growth mindset and just constantly being willing to like learn and add stuff to your repertoire. I mean that's how stories are made. That's I think we all can appreciate a good like fighting like FGC uh FGC tale of like a up and coming player learning so much. But like yeah, how about for you, Cheap? Like what general like player like play styles or like I guess going on with like mindsets and like just general things that you really like to witness.
So, on the one hand, I do have the same sentiment as Mito of just like seeing somebody that I've personally like helped or like seen show like improvement from like previous tournaments, previous sets and such, like making adaptations and all that. It's always good to see that. So that was pretty much covered by Mito in that regard. The other thing I would like to say is I just love players that bring the hype. I love players that do something that either nobody's seen before or something like so unique that it's just it's a breath of fresh air. Critical existence failure. Whenever I would see him play Yosuke Kanji, play that shit and catch people off guard because like who the hell plays Kanji? Who does that? Who does these resets? It was sick seeing like, oh, these people don't know, they're going to learn. So having like seeing like him do that and then like making adaptations whenever people actually were starting to like figure out what he was capable of, what his characters were doing was cool to see. And just like going back even further like blue sub going back to like an even more niche player like I remember distinctly seeing him play like as I think Ragna Lalo, which is one that we had a long time ago on WNF. Just like players that just like kind of in a way were similar to how I would approach things. Like kind of like simple but kind of balls to the wall sort of sort of play style. And I loved seeing that. And again, it goes back all the way back to like the beginning of like this whole conversation where I would say that I loved seeing hype men. I love seeing like people who like worked the crowd, worked their magic, made the set interesting, and incorporated that myself. And I love seeing other people doing that as well. So that's something I very much gravitate towards is somebody who does bring that energy. It does make people be like go from like, kind of like commentating or like, spectating and like, kind of like going about it like, yeah, this is a cool match to like being like, oh, like changing like the whole tone of voice like of the commentators that are talking, changing like, how people are reacting in chat to everything. Those are the types of players that I really love to see.
Yeah, I think I'm very much with you there because I I also just really love like people that do like funny stuff, not necessarily like optimal things. It's just like they just bring that type of energy, and like one of my favorite tag players of all time is Caterade, and like
Yep.
d-
Mhm.
dude dude was like, I think, a good mix of like having such a like good knowledge base with his characters and knowing what to do. Like he had like a Kuragane, Akatsuki, like basically like down to a science, and just be doing shit, bro. Like it was a really nice mix of, I think, the general more optimal style of gameplay where like it's very clear that he knew how to operate his characters to max capacity, and just that sheer willingness to just do C Tatsu or A Tatsu in neutral, or just like, I don't know, do Phantom Pain because like why not? Like that's a, I think it hits on like a lot of the things that both of you were talking about when it comes to just players, and like why I liked him so much of just that hype man energy mixed with that, like with that growth and just adding new things to the repertoire basically every week. And like I think the biggest indication of like, some of the stuff like Midori particularly really values is just like dude just like kind of picked up Weiss and just started like gapping with her and just adding that repertoire, like adding that stuff to his repertoire, and getting to see him really come into that character towards the latter end of his BB tag life, and like still committing to like just being that crazy player too. So yeah, that's like a very specific example that I think really touches upon like both both those aspects that like I personally really appreciate.
Cade, wherever you are now, if you're hearing this, I hope for the best for you. And we still need to meet at some point. I would really, really love at some point, if you're ever able to go to an event, I want to do the Ragna Kurogane round start intro from CF. I want to do that. Okay? If you're hearing this, man. I know you're still alive. I know you're still alive because you like some of my retweets on Twitter, bro. Okay? I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out.
We miss you, man. We love you, dude.
Shout out to Caterade. I miss him, but yeah, I think it's only quote unquote fair if we go to the other side of the spectrum, because I'm sure we all have our pet peeves and we have the things we don't like. And when it comes to play style, I know everybody has those players that they kind of dread against. Whether or not you respect respect them as a player, something about them, whether it's like a spectator or like actually playing against them. But like, if you please don't call any people out in specific unless you want to, but like uh uh like what are your general dislikes when it comes to like play styles, like I said, whether it's you play against them or like actually watching them play, or something along those lines? What really like boils your blood there?
Style over substance. Somebody who just tries to do something cool, tries to like do like something that's like, oh yeah, no, this is a really fancy combo. It's not doing a lot, but it's really fancy. It's really sick. It's meta in the middle of a match, and I'm just like, all right, cool. So what happens if you drop it? What happens if like this like kind of like weird execution sort of situation? What if this doesn't work and you just end up looking like a fool? Are you sure you want to do that when your life is on the line? You have no health at this point. I've seen that a lot. I've seen that a lot. And every time I'm just like, keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple. And every time, it's just like, well, you died for it. Cool. You didn't keep it simple. You died. Congratulations. I hope it was worth it. That's what really gets me.
There have I don't even need to like name anyone. I know exactly who you're referring to.
I'm not naming names.
No, yeah.
I'm just,
Just
yeah.
The
They know
the
who they are.
the if you want to call somebody out, that's perfectly up to you. I just want to make it clear that the Long Lily channel does not necessarily endorse it. But yeah, I definitely get what you mean. It's just that you know, as someone who's commentated um a lot of like tournaments, like there's definitely a perfect balance of if you want to do Neta. One of the people like that I think does it relatively well, and not to say he doesn't ever drop it, but like Sprite Cranberry I think is very notorious for doing Neta, but he only does it if it's going to kill.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that's a good way to go about it. But some people who like try to look cool and just end up failing on it, like especially if they're playing like a really like low damage character in which like you have to have a lot of confidence in doing it. Um it's always the case of just like, what are you trying to prove here? Why are you trying to be a showman type of deal? Just win the set, and if you're gonna win the set in a funny way, then you better be good at it. And like some people unfortunately just just aren't type of deal. Like they've been talking about, you know who you are.
They know exactly who they are. That's all I'll say.
It could be anybody. Well, it can be anybody but Sprite Cranberry.
True.
But yeah, how about you, Mito?
I I'm just laughing. I'm sorry. I'm just like laughing about the whole he answered that so fucking quickly. Like everything else we've been thinking about it, you know, determining. No, I hate Nita players. Like, damn. Okay, my bad. Holy shit. Um, but yeah, I kind of struggle to answer that question, so I'm kind of glad Cheap did first because I feel like I'm trying to remove that sort of stigma towards other players because I definitely had them before. I really, really don't like dealing with players that I'm figuring out how to phrase this. Players that focus more on fucking with someone in a way that's disrespectful rather than just like keeping it in the game. I think that kind of thing is frustrating to watch. Like, I really don't think there's much to be gained from that other than like outside beef. And there's definitely been some cool stories from that kind of thing. Um, I remember watching the beautiful BB tag video, and Atkins brought up the whole LTG thing with WNF and like how that's you probably know about WNF before. And that was like a good thing that came from, you know, outside beef. And there's nothing wrong with like friendly beef and, you know, being able to, you know, talk shit with each other. Sheep and I do it to each other all the time. All the
Damn
time.
right. Damn right.
Like I don't think it's a good friendship if you're not calling each other at least a couple bad words occasionally. But when it gets to the point where you start saying some personal shit about that person or just intentionally discrediting all the work that they've put in just because I don't know, you don't like them. I feel like that's when I start drawing the line. There are definitely a couple players I could think of that do that sort of thing. You know who you are. But other than that, I don't really think I have too much of an issue. I think that's kind of the only thing that really comes to mind.
Yeah.
Brief.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, very, very brief aside. You mentioned it, and I always have to bring it up whenever it's mentioned. I one of the people that I've like worked with for WNF like for a while now. He was the guy behind the camera for the LTG Viscant set. That was his first job with camera work, by the way.
Shit went
Insane.
crazy.
Yeah. And he did masterful job. I will say that right now. But yeah, I can't imagine having that sort of FGC history be something that you're put on camera for the first time for. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, it's God. I think I am inclined to agree that like when stuff gets like really like needlessly toxic in game, I'm just as a spectator, it's just like, come on, man, like really, like if it was just between two friends, it'd be like, that's funny, but like some people do it to like what I can only describe as like innocent people, and I'm just like, you're really this is a self report. I'm like, man, I really don't like watching it, and it goes and it usually ties in with the whole meta player too. Like these two types of people are like almost they're not. It's not like because you're disrespectful you'll do meta or like the other way around. But like usually speaking, they go hand in hand, and it's kind of obvious to tell. Just like not a pleasant watch. You always want to root for somebody that's at least like seems like a decent human being. I don't know how other way to really to really speak about it, but like yeah, for me personally, I think I don't know if this is like an expose for me, but I feel like I have a wider range of things that I don't like watching. um, as a player, I find this really ironic because like to some degree this applies to me, but I really hate non-interactive players. Not non-defensive players. Like I'm not talking about you, Mito. I just want to make that clear. But I really hate non-interactive players. The type of people that play teams and styles that are actively putting the opponent in situations in which they can't do anything. I mean, I'll put like a very direct example. I really don't like watching Adachi. Adachi is some of the most boring gameplay I think I could ask for in tag because it's all about making sure the opponent can't interact with you, and it really takes away, I think, a lot of the beauty of the game when the player has such little in the ways in which they can express themselves, and even the counterplay in and of itself is restrictive to the point where it's like it's just not interesting to play. And like full bias, like too, this is why I don't like characters like Nine, whose entire game style is interacting is forcing one interaction and then just unblockable looping and to a point where you can't do anything. Or where I don't necessarily like watching zoners either, where their entire game style is about restricting player options. um I've never particularly been too big of a fan of watching and even playing against that type of style too. And it's not necessarily like just space control players too. Like players that have like super like suffocating offense can be a little like it obviously depends on how they do it, but like players that are just putting you in the same loop over and over again and just like you can't really do anything about it is like boring. And that's I think a non-zoner example is I really freaking hate Carmine unblockable loops. That stuff is boring. I'm sorry to say. Like I hate stuff like that. It's not interactive, it's not interesting. I don't really vibe with that thing. And it's kind of one of the problems that I have with quote unquote like optimal BB tag because it's all about like non-interactive gameplay. Yeah. It's
Fair, fair.
yeah. I don't know. How do you two feel about like general non-interactivity? Because that in and of itself is a playstyle. Some people really love playing really like playing solitaire.
I mean, look, whatever you got to do to get your fucking wins in, I'm not gonna judge.
That's fair.
I mean, I agree with that, but at the same time, I also agree with the sentiment of just like from a spectator standpoint, dude. After seeing so many sets of this, after having to go through so many matches and so many tournaments of seeing like sets like that, I'm just like, all right, can we get on with it? You know, like sometimes like it's just, and I can sometimes hear it like in commentators' voices whenever like they're having to like commentate something like that. It's just like, what do you say here? What do you do? What are we really talking about at this point? Which
Yeah.
I don't blame them. I don't blame them for like doing that, because it's just like, how do you commentate in like a game that's going like that? It's just like, all right, well, they're doing the thing again. They can't play, so fill the dead air. And
Yeah.
it's just, I again, as Mito said, whatever it takes to win. Like some people do have that mindset of, yeah, just hey, if it works, it works. Whatever it takes, so long as it works. But I, yeah, from a spectator and sometimes from like a player standpoint as well, it's just like, dude, what are we doing here? Why are we even playing the game at this point?
Yeah, I think that he's touching upon a big thing of probably why it bothers me so much because I am a commentator. I had to sit through somebody get like looped to death, like throw loop to death or something like that. And I just sit there, just like, man, I want to be talking about anything else. I can't even talk about counterplay. I can't even talk about like like micro interactions because they're really like, what am I gonna do? It's either it's a very like it's a module thing. It's either they block it or they don't, and in some cases they don't have a choice in the matter. So I think that's a big part of like an external reason outside of maybe the like playing the game itself of why I really dislike it is because I've had to sit through it and I've had to try to speak about it when like in reality there's not much to talk about. So yeah, I think that very much touches upon why it's just like because I I need a break from it all
Mhm.
type of deal when it comes to like non-interactive general play styles.
Yeah, valid. No critiques here.
Yeah, I'd hope not. It's my opinion. What the frick? uh,
My bad.
but yeah, just in general, I like just a minor question, but like regardless of who you're watching, like do you tend to cheer for people that play your characters?
If it's Hyde, yes. If it's any other character, we do not care.
Mood.
I mean, I always say it every time I see any Ragnar on stream. At like any time I saw Ragnar on stream, I always made it very clear, I'm judging you. I'm going to be looking. I'm going to be scrutinizing. Like there is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. You will have the eye of Sauron looking upon you.
Yeah, understandable. I think there is a certain level in which I think I view people who play my own character like they're there's always going to be a high level of respect because I understand the struggles that they go into. I main Ori and Yukiko, so some characters that can definitely be struggle, and I can really appreciate the craft that like goes into it. Um, and I think for the most part, I really like watching other Ori plays because of that. That being said, this is not apply to Yukiko. I think there are some Yukiko playstyles that are lame as hell. I freaking hate them. The boost to level 9 playstyle has been my pet peeve playstyle forever, because not only do I not think that it is it's not necessarily the most optimal way to play her, but it's also just boring. It's because of that low interactivity um thing that I hate the most. And it's a game style of, it's so volatile to the point of like it's either they die or you die, and it's really no in between type of deal. So like I'll be honest, like I'm not always rooting for the Yu-Gi-Oh player in some scenarios. It's like there comes a point where like my own character is played in a certain way where it's just like it's not interesting or fun anymore. At least from my perspective too, I think Ragnar and Hyde are very much characters that are more interesting to watch because of how much individualism there are because of the players involved, though. And I think the same
Hmm.
thing with Aurier too. So like yeah. It's like what are the topics of like characters we like watching? You two have any like characters you particularly like that aren't like your mains?
Hmm.
I can
That
always
is a good
respect a
question.
Teddy player.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not a Teddy fan per se, but like if a good Teddy's on screen, we got Mustache Villain in this bitch. I'm always chill with that, you know. Like
Hmm.
bro's always cool to watch. Though I don't know if that's more of a player thing than a character specific thing. Um, hmm.
I think it's hard if the player base is relatively small, because like who who really pushes Teddy nowadays? So like your assumption of what the play style and like generally how the character operates is always just going to be based on what you see.
Yeah. I guess if I had to throw a character that would work regardless of who it is, most of the time, 90% of the time, I would say Linne is pretty cool to watch.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I don't really have a lot of problems with Linne players. They're mostly cool. What about you, Jeep?
This one's also tough for me. Hmm. I'm feeling I'm at a toss up here. I'm like juggling between either Azrael or Kuragane. Like both of them, I feel like well, mainly like because of Azrael's movement and because of like what he can do after Valiant as well. Like just like lends himself to just being really fun to see and like how people play him. You know, shout outs to Bojack, shout outs to Sprite Cranberry as well for being pioneers with that character. But um yeah, it was just like seeing him and like seeing him turn around like any situation if he gets the hit. It's just like, oh, it is still an even game, buddy. It doesn't matter that the life totals are like this much of a disparity. You don't get hit. You get hit, you die. Kuragane as well, but for a different reason. It's just like I love seeing people use what he has, like use his like dash cancel mechanics and like use um his unique drive in that regard, like to its fullest, like because that's somebody who's definitely practiced the character, like being able to like do that consistently and from both sides, P1 and P2 side, it matters. um but yeah, no, those two characters I feel are two that I always like just really enjoy seeing because it definitely takes a lot to be able to be good with those two, I feel.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm definitely up there too. I really love more aggressive characters to watch. Like Kuragane and Azrael are like definitely the pinnacle of just like aggression. And like I think a lot of it too is just the um something that plays a lot of it too is just the sound effects are just meaty. You know, I feel the power. I really like that in stuff that I watch, and I think that's a very important thing for a spectator. Is just like, how does it make you feel when you see that character get like comboed to death? How does it make you feel? And I think for Azrael and Kuro, there's power. There I can feel the bones crunch, you know. So
Like whenever I see like enhanced Black Hawk Stinger charging up and like the aura, the screen shake, everything, the bass rumble, all of that, I'm just like, oh, like I can't help but wince sometimes because I'm like, oh, this is gonna fucking hurt. Oh, this is gonna fucking hurt. Oh god, you know.
it's just a boy. Yeah. It's it's always just kind of an interesting thought to think about the characters that I like, because like I said, a lot of the characters I love watching are super different from the ones that I actually play, and I would figure, that I would be a bit more um I would like those the characters that fit my playstyle a bit more, but like it really doesn't end up being the case most of the time. Outside of like the two specific characters that I play, the general archetypes that they fall into are not usually ones that I'm like hyped to see for the
Mm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Just I guess kind of just like talking with you two about it. It's like um we gotta differ in that regard, at least from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty normal though. Not we're not all gonna agree on the same things here.
I
Yeah.
don't like watching zoners, man. I'm sorry. I don't like watching them at all. They're all trash. You hear
Damn.
that? They're I hey. Sometimes you just gotta say it, man. Like they're all trash to watch. I hate watching them as spectators because I'm just like, okay, cool. This goes back to the non-interactivity as well. It's just like, oh my god, just get hit. Just get hit. Just take a punch to the face, man. I swear to God. Just I want this. I want this other player. If it's not a zoner, if it's zoner versus zoner, I'm not watching the set, bro. I'm sorry. I am not watching the set.
No, that's real, and I think most people don't like watching zoners. I mean, we all have our different reasons for it, but like I think the general FGC kind of mentality is a very like pro interactivity style of like of spectator. Yeah, it's two things that I think spectators hate. They hate low interactivity and they hate monotony. Um, and I think that's I mean I want to speak to you, Mido. You can give your actually. Oh, I am putting you on the spot. How do you feel about Adachi Hilda, like the general zoner metagame as like a spectator? I know your general opinion is like you got to do what you got to do to win, but like what do you generally like glean from the general meta? I guess we're in tag as a spectator.
If we're talking specifically as a spectator and not as a player, I don't know. I just kind of enjoy watching BB Tag. Like, I don't really have one particular kind of character or anything that I don't enjoy watching. Maybe it's like, all right, I'm gonna do the secret tactic of pulling out Dust Loop to look at the characters because my mind suddenly just forgetting everything that I ever know when I'm talking about it.
Mood.
I find Ike is boring as fuck. I think that character's dumb. Like, ooh, fucking. I have a fake aesthetic meter to manage. I got a bunch of resources that my neutral is quote unquote bad with. Ooh, fucking. My partners are so bad. I can't I can't do anything. Oh my god, bruh. No shade on the Aegis players. They be doing work, but like, oh my god, bruh. Fuck that character.
You know, out of all the characters I think to specifically like dislike, I don't think I would have necessarily picked Aegis for you. I don't like none of that. I have a good idea of who you would dislike in general, but for some reason my brain it's like doesn't ping with the fact that you would dislike Aegis that much. I don't know.
Yeah, no, like I think the characters I dislike most when it comes to actually watching BB Tag are the ones that are just incredibly one-sided the moment you get knocked down with.
Mm-hmm.
Heart, I know. I have mentioned this character more than Broski mentions Mai. Like, oh my god, bruh. Rachel Alucard. Do I need to bring up Cake?
Man, I can talk about Rachel a little bit later because I think that's a funny conversation for me as a spectator. But go on.
Who else is a good example of this? Honestly, yeah, I think it's just those like no, I guess 9. 9 probably counts.
Yeah.
9, Rachel, Heart. I guess Easy Way, but like I don't really give as much of a shit about her.
Do you just hate air rat characters?
Yeah, I was gonna
No,
say.
because I play Seth. I can't hate air rats, but like
I mean, you can play what you hate. I mean, people have turned to the dark side before.
true, but
Yeah, not mutually exclusive here.
the thought process is more we're talking solely from a spectator point of view.
Mhm.
When it comes to playing against them, yeah, I don't like Rachel, but we're definitely going to talk about it differently. Because if we're talking about playing, I would have mentioned Adachi. Because oh my god, bruh, I'm so tired of him just doing 5B on block into IAD, JB, and me getting my anti-air stuffed because his button is bigger than the fucking Kingdom Come. Oh my god, I genuinely want to stab whoever designed that shit. It genuinely makes me want to throw my eyeball out of its socket and recreate the episode 1 Invincible scene. I want to die whenever
That's
I get
great.
anti-aired like that, bro. It's so frustrating.
That
But
valid
yeah, no.
crash out, I think.
But yeah, when it comes to spectating, it's definitely a different story. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not fun watching Heart do fucking JC 17 times. But ooh, this time I did it a little bit faster. So your anti-air gets stuffed because my stanky ass leg of a JB is gonna hit you before your head and bolt comes in. Like, okay, man. Yeah, you outplayed me. Uh-huh. Or when she just goes past you for some reason, and even if you time it perfectly to the cadence of how they're moving, they just move past you, and then she's behind you and she hits you with a fucking 5A while you're crouching, and then you take 8K because you actually played the game. Oh my fucking god. If I had to delete any character from the game, I would delete Heart. I genuinely go back to 1.5, bruh.
I would like to.
Fuck.
I have to make a official statement for my employer that I do not endorse any heart hate that's being said in this video.
That's
Uh,
crazy.
they signed a contract that if they say anything whack that could potentially be outside of my employer's interest, that does not apply to me. I do not support any heart hate in this household. Heart smirk. But
But
yeah,
yeah,
I
my
I
bad. Go ahead.
I think we all share this sentiment of just like low interactivity being like just lame as hell.
Mhm.
In specific ways, like I don't hate zoners as much as Cheap does. I think I just hate it when you press when you do a thing that involuntarily removes. Okay, maybe I do hate low interactivity.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
like,
The more you explain, the more I'm like,
Okay,
okay, all
yeah,
right.
yeah. You know, this is good. This is good. Making realizations about myself.
Yeah. It's funny you specifically bring up Rachel because I'm kind of also a cheap where I dislike zoners for the most part, like watching them. I have I have this like kind of exception with Rachel, and it's because of Serene Smile. Like specifically him. If you play Rachel wrong, I think it's funny.
Okay.
Like if Rachel is just doing stuff, like actually like go my lobelias, I don't know what I'm doing with them. Like that I don't know why. I find it just really entertaining to watch just because like she's a very active zoner that will actually wants to be in your face. It's not interactive, don't get me wrong, but like I don't know, she just be doing shit, dude. Like it's funny, but like and not to discredit like KK as a player at all, but when I saw optimal Rachel, like wow, this is boring. Like this is the stuff I hate. But like Serene Smile plays in such a way that like he doesn't know what he's doing. The opponent doesn't know what he's doing. He's not even playing Rachel right, and sometimes he'll just kill off Rachel to go play Waldstein. Like I don't know. I
Or
find
vice
that
versa.
yeah like I I find that in specific funny. Not the character itself, but just that play style in specific. And I think there can be exceptions within characters that we don't like, for sure. They're rare, but like they 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 can exist.
Yeah. And not to take away any credit from the people who have taken the time to like lab all these things out and figure out how to do them. You're the goats for pushing the game to the way that you have. That doesn't mean I'm not going to call you a little bitch as you mitched me for the sixth time, okay? You know, there's no hate in that. I just think you're a little pussy ass bitch. Anyway, continue.
uh uh that's that's real. Just for some context to the audience, I told Mito that like she could be a little bit unfiltered for this, and I'm glad I got what I asked
I never talk this way, by the way.
for.
It feels like letting loose for the first time in ages.
I just like just say, I gave him the professional rundown and everything. Like, yeah, just don't say anything that'll get me or you canceled. And I mean, you haven't said anything that'll get you canceled. However, Sis is letting the rage of 1,000 gods upon certain certain people.
And again, I don't hate any of these people that I'm like subtweeting right now. None of these people are bad, except for one of them. I mentioned a particular group of people earlier. I don't like you, but that's it. Everyone else is cool. Like,
Real as hell.
Honestly,
I've been shitting on hard players, but like they do be fucking working, even if I don't like the way that they work. It's just it is what it is, bro. Y'all just doing what you love, and fine. You got that. I'm not gonna take that away from you.
that's that's real. Yeah. Do you have anything to add to this conversation, Chief?
I've just been sitting here admiring the valid crash outs. I'm not gonna lie. This has been a treat to just kind of be like, yep, learn to sit back and observe.
Yeah. Not everything is worth responding to. Sometimes you just have to sit back and but yeah, character crash outs aside, um, I think another thing that is kind of very tangentially related to this topic is like well, this doesn't apply to me. I don't really play that many fighting games outside of tag, but like, how's your experience playing tag and the characters that you pick and how you play them in this game drastically affected your character choices and how you play in other games? Because tag is a different beast. It by its nature it's a 2v2 game. It plays and operates a lot differently compared to a more traditional like 1v1 fighter. And has your experience playing tag really change the way you view traditional like fighters and how you should play them, or do you just do you try to separate the two, kind of like, this is how I play tag, this is how I play 1v1 games? How is it for the two of you?
I mean, you've seen how I play tag. It's been mentioned before as well. Like I a lot of the time just play this as a 1v1 game, like with maybe like an assist in the back line or something. So it hasn't really changed too much for me in that regard of how I approach things because, I as mentioned before by you specifically, it's like, yeah, anytime I have level 4 resonance, it's like what the hell is going on? How did this happen? So uh, be, because of that, I feel like yeah, it hasn't changed much, if anything. I still play the way I do, no matter what the game is.
And like, just as a side, I've I personally labeled Cheap the best CF player that's forced to play tag, because it's honestly true. Like, he plays like, for the maybe one off person who who's watching this that doesn't know these two, like, and how they play, like, go watch like a Cheap VOD, and then go watch a like a Mito VOD, and it's actually like painfully apparent how different it is. But yeah, that aside, how about you, Mito? How has it been like moving to other like fighters?
Okay, so I think on that particular topic, something that I had at my locals once sticks out to me. Um, so I live in Florida, right? And I typically go to Flynn's Arcade for local. Shout outs to Flynn's. Um, and one of the things that I remember when I first signed up for uni for the first time ages ago, where like Omni Deeg was still there and he was still coming around, and that one of the commentators like looked at what I played before uni, and then they just made a comment about, man, this bitch has a type, doesn't they? Because they knew I played Hyde, they knew I played Kai at Strive. Then they looked at me playing Aurier in uni, and I'm like, maybe there's a bit of a pattern here, and I think that sort of succinctly answers your question. Yes, sort of. I think all the characters that I played past Tag have been in the mid-range monster phase of things, where I just play a character that has big button, Kai, Catalina, Aurier, whatever. It doesn't really matter what they look like. The appearance is still like important to me, obviously, but it's not as important. I'll play fucking Gold Lewis if I liked how he played. I don't care if he's a fat chud. Like, bro's cool. Like, yeah, no, I would definitely say yes to that.
Yeah, that's I think it's hard to not see parallels in other games and just gravitating towards that. Like, it's a very natural inclination to like want to play what's familiar. And I think for me, it's kind of an interesting thing to think about, because um the types of characters that I end up playing and liking kind of just get added to the repertoire of things that fit my playstyle. I don't know how to necessarily describe this, but like, um my character choice, my like, as I mentioned before, my character choices are very aesthetically based. I always pick the character I like the most visually, and then I just try to make whatever, like, however they play just work for me. So like, kind of as a result of, like, if you look at the characters that I play, there's it makes, like, I've had people say that it makes sense that I play these characters, but they all like kind of are different. So like, the main fighting games that I've played for a lot of time, obviously there's Tag, right? Like, I play Orie, Yukiko, and Tag, and those characters have vastly different play styles. But like, you go, like, when I was playing Exard, I was playing stuff like, I played Dizzy, which is a character archetype that experienced another game of like I don't even know how I would describe Dizzy's playstyle outside of like projectile based rushdown, I guess is like what they were kind of going for with her. And like that's kind of just how I end up wanting to play Yukiko type of deal. So like it's one of those things. If I pick up like a new archetype of character, like just I don't know. They just fit into what I like to play. They're very different, um, mind you. And like the other fighting game I put a good amount of time into was Type Lumina, and like I played Hisui, who kind of doesn't play anything like Dizzy, like Orie, like Yukiko, like those kind of like characters. Like she's not a mid range monster. She's not like a zoner that has like rush down options. Like she's Hisui, and I don't know. I just added her to the repertoire of characters that I like. So like I just be making stuff work. I don't know if I have a type outside of like cute girl.
Valid.
It's like yeah, I don't know.
You have your archetype, you stick to it.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's a character archetype, not a playstyle one.
I feel that. I feel that.
Yeah, yeah. It's just I mean, just kind of touching upon not necessarily just characters in general, but just learning other games. How has like how easy has it been to kind of adapt the way you play into like other games? I mean, like I know cheap the answer is kind of already been said, but like I mean, if you have a specific example that you would like to cover, like go ahead.
Hmm. Um. Hmm. I don't know if there's like anything specific that I can give. I mean, like, how I play Ragna in CF and Tag is much like how I play. Well, I don't play CF as much anymore, but how I did play him in CF. And Tag is like, more or less how I play him. How I play a Soul a lot in Plus R. I mean, fundamentally they're very similar characters in terms of like, archetype and more or less moveset a lot of the time as well. But it's just like, you know, it, I approach things pretty much the same way, regardless. It's just like keep it simple, keep it like as basic as I can. Sometimes do something cool, like I'll always have to like take the chance to do like sidewinder loops and plus R, but for the most part, it's always been just like, hey, I yeah, if I like just like am comfortable with it, I'm just gonna kind of like do my own thing,
Hmm.
which is how I've approached like pretty much any fighting game I've touched, like Plus R, like Blaze Blue in general, and then Grand Blue, which I need to play more of. But yeah,
Hop on. Hop the fuck on. My bad, continue.
I'll get. I understand where that's coming from. Yes, but yeah, no, that's just how I've approached a lot of fighting games. It's just like I find the character that just like has buttons I like, has stuff that I feel or like aesthetically. I'm just like, yeah, no, I vibe with this. Like that's why I picked Corone and Idol Showdown too. I love the character. Like almost like wouldn't have picked anybody else honestly. Like except for like a couple of others if they put them in. But um, yeah, I was just like, I don't care how she plays. I'm gonna play her because I just like the dog. I like the funny dog.
What the dog doing? Yeah.
What the
Uh,
dog doing?
how about for you, Mito? Because like, I think if I see you like playing something on Steam, you have out of every one of my friends, let's see, you probably have like the most diverse set of like other fighting games that you play. Isn't like from my own personal like friends list.
That's a bit shocking to hear because when it comes to fighting games specifically, I think the 3 games I've played in the last year have been obviously BB Tag, Grand Blue, a little bit of Uni, I think I played like 5 minutes of Dekianta. I don't know if that counts. I don't think there's really that big a difference, but I will say that I do take a little bit more pride in the fact of the way that I learned how to play because I feel like it was a lot easier for me to adapt to other games and just be able to feel comfortable in them. And I think it goes both ways because obviously the fundamental thing would help with a game like Granblue because Granblue's a lot slower of a game than BB Tag is, but I think because of how fast BB Tag tends to play, I don't really mind blocking things that most people in Granblue would. Like I could not give a shit if I'm blocking 17 6XLs in a row. Like yeah, okay, man. That like I've had to deal with Adachi setting up Bizio into Yumi doing 18k because she pressed JC same side over hit on block. Like I think we're good. I'm chill blocking the +2 on block mid. I'm alright. And I think both lends credence to that sort of thing. Obviously I'm not like amazing at Granblue, but I like to think that I can get to that point if I really wanted to. And I definitely think I'm gonna try to over the next year or so. Obviously there's gonna be a lot of things that we're gonna have to like run a lot of things at IF and whatnot, but after 2026, I think I'm gonna like hard focus on competing and whatnot, and that's gonna be a lot of Granblue. Um, but yeah, um, I how would I wrap this up? I don't really have that diverse a lineage. What lineage? What the fuck am I saying? Um, lineup when it comes to fighting games, but I do think I did learn a lot from how I played in BB Tag in order to become a more diverse fighting game player that way. Yes.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And like I guess it may be like another thing that I want to touch up upon when it comes to like just tag scene in general, and just like it's an interesting thing to see a lot of tag players, despite how different the environment is, into like try to play other games. And like for the most part, like there's a lot of people with tenure in the tag scene that end up doing really well in other games. Like I think the player that like I think stands out most to me is like, Razzo was a like very prominent in the tag scene, and like she went on to like be like pretty dominant in Strive. I hate Strive, by the way. I need to put that out there somewhere. Uh, but like, but like, yeah, there's plenty of examples of that. And like, when I got into like Type Lumina, like the game was super different, and I had to like readjust so many things. But like for when I was competing, like I was doing relatively well. New games, like obviously people are still like picking up and learning things, but like I felt like a lot of the stuff that I learned from Tag was transferable to other games, and like just that ability to kind of um like morph what I learned from the game into like other things, and just having a better understanding of like how I play like really helped me out. And like I'm curious to hear your two's thoughts of like, do you think Tag is a good like, I don't want to say jumping off point because that implies like the start of it, but like, do you think that there's a lot of transferable skills that you can get from Tag to place into other fighting games?
Yeah, absolutely. Fucking like we were just talking about how I started valuing movement a lot more when it came to like player things. And I think I wouldn't really have done that if I didn't start playing BB Tag. Like that game taught me how valuable it is to be able to move at such an efficient pace. Obviously, I learned a lot of other things from fighting games too. I'm not going to say everything is from BB Tag, but I think it was definitely a good place to start from because combos aren't really that hard to do, but the ceiling is up on this. I said that backwards. The what you would be getting in terms of like combo variety and whatnot is up in the ceiling. You can pretty much do anything with any team you want, and you'll be able to sort of like adapt the combo theory you would learn from there to other fighting games, which is generally pretty important. And I honestly think it doesn't really matter what fighting game you pick up initially, unless you're playing fucking, I don't know, man, Dive Kick. You know the one that High Fight made? The No, wait, no, that wasn't High Fight.
I was gonna say that's footsies if you're thinking of.
Yeah. Well, whoever made Dive Kick, the one where you literally just dive kicking constantly, that one, I don't know if you could get as much as you would from like a traditional fighting game, but you could learn pretty much any sort of fundamental things from any fighting game. I don't really think it matters whether or not it's BB Tag or fucking Strive.
And I share that same sentiment. Like, you're going to take away something from any fighting game. Like, whenever you're transferring to another, you're going to take something away from it. So I feel like, yeah, movement is definitely a big thing. Just in general, like, that's a fundamental thing in its own right. Like, knowing how to space yourself and being more yeah, and because of the simplicity of like how combos are in tag, I feel like that's also like a good way for somebody to kind of like get used to that before getting into something a little bit more complex. Like, I mean, hey, if they wanted to try to get into like Blaze Blue proper, like with CF, like that's, that it kind of sets you up for something like that, since a lot of those, and like since a lot of the characters in this game have like combo structure that is somewhat similar, or like somewhat sort of a baseline of how they operate in their home games. Um, I will say though about the dive kick thing. I mean, you still understand neutral. You still understand like something from that, even though it's a one button game essentially. Like you still get an idea of just like, how do I move myself? How do I like position myself to like bait something out or something like that? You still get that. But yeah, I think tag can be a good jumping off point because of that. I can understand like from the opposite of why that wouldn't be, because a lot of the time the players you're going to like encounter are just going to be those people who have stuck with the game for a while, which might be, you might get pub stomped, which is kind of the nature of how fighting games are. But I feel like a lot more so with tag. You're going to see a lot of that more so than somebody who's picking it up. But I wouldn't say that's necessarily something that should be a deal breaker, because there's always going to be new people on something, like new people on any fighting game, any game really. There's always going to be somebody who gets curious and wants to give it a shot. So, shout outs to TMN Training Mode Network for holding it down on the beginner slash intermediate side of things with their brackets and all that, giving a space for players like that who are jumping into it, to
Mhm.
be able to get tournament experience and like get a feel for the game without having to potentially play against somebody as like like somebody who's won majors or somebody who's like pretty tenured at the game. um but yeah, I think any fighting game can be like for like a good jumping off point. I think like almost any fighting game can be like that, so tag isn't like an exception to that, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I think
Yeah.
I think one of like the biggest things that I noticed like tag really helped me like try to learn other fighting games is situational awareness. Um Needless to say, in a 2v2 game or like any tag game in general, you need to like have more of your eyes on the screen effectively, because you have to worry about assists, you have to worry about what the point character is doing, and you have to keep track of another character on your side. So there's a lot of situational awareness that you need to have that kind of goes a little unspoken to like actually be a good BB tag player. So when I was like moving on to other fighting games, I noticed that like I just understood what was going on a lot more like in any given match, just because like I have to keep track of less, but I'm still like primed to like focus on certain things, like if there's a projectile on screen that I need to avoid, or like there's a certain move that they're doing. Like I had that additional like layers of situational awareness that I think really were helped because of tag, and because of a lot of the things that you need to know at any given point in tag. Is just like it really helped me get into that mindset of like just having that situational awareness and making decisions surrounding around that, and like in that sense being like maybe not like actively methodical, but like just kind of like passively like getting to understand like stuff like game states like that.
Mhm. Yeah, nothing to add there.
Yeah, it's kind of like you get like as you said, you get like used to like having to keep track of so much that whenever it's like you're playing something else, especially something a lot more like grounded in a certain sense, not necessarily like on the ground, but you know what I mean. Like you because you're so used to having to keep track of so much, whenever you don't have to keep track of as much, it's less kind of like, the weights are off in a sense.
It's like there's a term for this in psychology, but I'm like it's way too late. I don't feel like looking it up, but yeah, it's like it's just generally like the less noise that is in your head, the more focused you end up being. And like yeah, who
Mhm.
who would have guessed removing two characters from the equation would help out drastically in that regard. Like, wonder why I see more. Yeah. Uh. Hmm. What else is there to talk about? And, I've been dictating a lot of the pace of the conversation, but like, is there anything you two in particular like wanna talk about? Like I know I had that preamble at the start, but now that we're like almost 3 hours in, any particular thoughts around this topic?
Mm, not particularly. No, I think my brain is fried after talking for like 3 hours.
Mood.
I mean, I'm used to talking for 3 hours, so it's how long the brackets would be. Hmm. Let's see.
I'll give you
As far
two
as
a
I can,
little minute.
as far as I can think of, because like we covered a lot. Like I would say that's the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can also just bring up another topic, but yeah, I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, nothing comes to mind for me.
Yeah. See, I'm not creative, so unfortunately.
Damn, that's crazy. No
Not
art.
creative. Made a trailer. That's crazy. All right.
Hey, no, 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 no. We don't fuck with that.
Oh,
It-
oh
it- that, that
sure.
that that was that was me while I was on my Schizo episode. Okay.
Uh
Your other
huh.
personality. Got it. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, just like Ron Rose.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about Ron. I want to talk about the alternative personality. Ron Rose gets very different compared to Lon Lily. Like that you bring that as somewhat of a joke, but like it kind of applies to the general conversation of it. Like dead ass, I do actually just play Yumi entirely different compared to how I play Ori Yukiko, and like it very much is just a a character thing. Like I'll start off like, do you two feel like you have a different play style if you play the character? I would figure the answer is no, just based off the conversations that we've had. But I mean, before I rant about Ron Rose, I want to ask.
I think it depends on the. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, go okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
My bad. Um, I was just gonna say like I think it depends on the situation I'm playing the character for. Like, if we're playing competitively, then obviously I'm gonna have a particular way I'd like to stay consistent with playing. But if I'm just playing 3 AM friendlies, And this motherfucker Sykes over here decided to do walk up super for the 17th time tonight. I'm gonna bust out my Tager and I'm just gonna mash 214B constantly. Like, yeah, I'm absolutely playing different. Like, I am a different beast when I lack the proper sleep to function properly. But then again, that's a buff according to Scrub. This motherfucker won like 2 majors because on 1 hour of sleep. So I don't know. Maybe that was the play the whole time.
Who knows? The sleep deprivation is a power up and a debuff at the same time. Yeah, cheap. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, like, I don't really feel like I play characters that really necessitate that, like kind of really changing my playstyle a lot. I mean, granted, it's just like, okay, if I'm playing like Ragnarok Hiko, it's going to be a little bit different than if I'm playing like Ragnar Mika, just because eh, I don't play Akihiko as much as I used to, but like the Mika's there to cover a base of just like, oh, am I dealing with like a zoning team? Or, how comfortable am I feeling with this team against what I'm playing against? So, depending on that situation, I guess it would probably necessitate like a little bit of a different play style, but fundamentally at its core, I can't say that like I play much differently.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, yeah, for me, in case anyone in the audience is a little confused, Ron Rose is like a bit of an affectionate like nickname for a specific team that I play, which is Yumi. Um and like it's been commented on before in the past by like people who played against it or have watched me play it, but it quite literally is just a different player. Like it feels different because I'm a lot more aggressive with the team. Like I generally would describe my normal play style as a bipolar turtle. um I can't remember who I got that from or if I coined that myself, but I'm very much I swap on and off, but I tend to lean more towards a defensive, like wait for you type of play style. But I attack when I deem it necessary. Like just an imagine just an aggressive turtle. That's that's how I would describe that. That mental individual also never cracked me up. But yeah, when I play Ron Rose the Yumi, it's like full full offense, like trying to be in your face, trying to be a lot more suffocating compared to when I play Ori Yukiko, because like Yukiko is a character that's very interesting, in which it's actually kind of beneficial if you have space in neutral to call assist and like utilize it in that way. So I'm more willing to back off, but like when I play Yumi, it's like nope. I want you in the corner. Stay there. Let me run my funny stuff, please. um and I think a lot of it for me is just like, well, I'm playing significantly better characters. Let's not get it twisted. Uh, and like because of that, like again get away with a lot more. But like also too, it's just like the tools that I have available. There are some parallels on how the team plays, but for the most part, are just so entirely different that I just adapt with how it is. And like just in general, like I don't really play other characters or like other fighting games in the same way that I play Ron Rose, which I think is interesting, and I don't know where that stems from, but it might just go back to the whole thing of just like I make things work in the way that I feel like I need them to, even if it's against the grain of what I would consider my own play style. And like I think Yumi is very much a standout on how I play the game, because it's when I play other Ori teams, I tend to play it more like Ori Yukiko, but I've never played an Ori team like the way I play Ron Rose. So yeah, I can't believe it. Bringing up Ron Rose was the key to continuing the conversation. That bastard.
Wild shit,
Oh,
honestly.
I will grant him the sweet release from the trash can that I put him in tonight, but for a brief moment. But yeah, regardless, well, the one topic that I wanted to talk about next, and maybe the topic that we'll wrap up with, is your chooses like general mindset when you go into learning BB tag and like going into a match of BB tag. Like what goes what goes on through your head? Like what are you thinking about? What do you strive to do in BB tag is I guess what I'm asking.
Do you want to go first with that, Cheap, or should I?
You go on first.
Okay, yeah, give you time to think. I don't think there's anything in particularly specific to BP tag when it comes to trying to improve. Because, like, when I hop into a set and start playing with someone, I'm going in with the context of I want to play well here because I don't want to go into a tournament set and get completely bodied by this person or just like that kind of playstyle as a whole. There's there's a bit too much dissonance when it comes to different players to be specific about that sort of thing. But I do think that when I go into a practice session, it's more a situation of, okay, what do I want to work on for this set? And how do I go about doing so when fighting this particular person? How would I make, how would I achieve my goal? And as the set progresses, I would do my best to achieve that goal, even if I don't quite get to where I'd like to be, which is probably more due to my own incompetence rather than anything when it comes to the set itself. Um, I don't know. I feel like there's not much I could say that's particular for tag, like I mentioned earlier. It's more so just taking what I've learned from trying to learn further. I always reference the video from Armada that was made several years ago about learning how to learn, and I've been like following that to a T in terms of how to go about my improvement from there. And I think it's worked to an extent, but I definitely feel like I've gotten into situations where I didn't quite get away with what I wanted to, or maybe I just didn't practice the things that I did in training mode or like implement them at all. I didn't even think about them when they happened, or I just don't make the adaptations in the middle of a set that I could be making, which all comes back full circle to the idea that I mentioned earlier about, not quite having the execution that I'd like. So I definitely feel like there's room for improvement there, but when it comes to just attempting to, you know, just go into a set and get something out of it. It's more so just pinpointing one thing I want to work on and focusing on that in particular. And if it doesn't work out, then I need to identify why. And then just use that as a looping, repeating method.
Mm-hmm. Oh, how about you, Cheap?
Like whenever I just like go into a set when it comes to tag, I'm just like thinking like, cool, I got games. Like, a lot for me it's just kind of like I've hit the point with tag where I feel very comfortable with like what I've achieved, what I've done, and like what my skill is at right now. And I just kind of like go in just like, you know, I'm gonna do my game plan. I'm just going to play how I usually play, like not necessarily like no thoughts, head empty, but like it very much is like there's a lot of that just like being done subconsciously. Like I'm just like thinking like, okay, well, like if I've played this person before, it's just like, okay, like what do they tend to do? What are their like habits or whatever? Or like if it's somebody that I haven't played much, it's just like, okay, let's like use this as like sort of like, kind of get an idea of how they play. And like I, I don't know. It feels like at this point for me with tag specifically, I've just like been like, it's the game I hop on like, after a long day, just like come on and be like, yeah, I'll boot it up, have some fun, enjoy myself. If it's competitive, I mean, you made reference to it already, Lon, but like the prime example is just like the Fate GP. I signed up like probably like 30 minutes before cutoff,
Mhm.
and I was just like, yeah, fuck it, sure, we ball. And like that's kind of like how I approach it anymore nowadays. It's just kind of like, yeah, fuck it, we ball. I'll do my thing. See how it works. If it's something like bigger, like, a major or something like that, I'll like sort of like try to see like, okay, like who am I playing? What am I gonna be potentially going up against, and how can I, in a sense, plan for that? Which, as best I can with a game like this. But it's that's generally just how I feel about it now. It's just F it.
Yeah.
Affectionately. Just want to get that out there.
It's definitely a fuck it we gap.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think I think like both like general mentalities are very like respectable to have, and like I this is a time honored statement, but fighting games are hard, bro. Like, uh,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
there's so many things to consider, and like from my own experience too. Like I've had trouble learning this game, and I've gotten very demotivated for playing the game in general, and like even nowadays, I honestly don't play tag that much, and I don't really actively like learn the game competitively. And just as a general statement, like I think that's fine. Um, but if you have to take away anything from that, if you're listening to this and you're like generally like you're struggling to like learn BB tag or like really anything in life, is like very much just you just gotta do it. A lot of the reason I wanted to talk about play styles for this episode is just like it's very interesting to see how they develop. And for a lot of us, the play style like just comes over time, and figure out what you like comes over time. And I see a lot of people that are newer to tag who really struggle to kind of find their place in the game. Like I had to say to them, like genuinely, this game is so flexible and like unique. Like you'll if you enjoy the game enough and you genuinely enjoy the game enough, you will find some way you jive with it. Like it's not necessarily like you finding the right character, but it's just finding the right ways in which these things click. And I hope like listening to these things and listening how like these things develop and how they might are, and obviously just it's just three perspectives in the matter, but I hope that whoever's listening, you can really take inspiration and just find a way that works for you. And even if you struggle to play the game and you're really frustrated in playing the game, there are so many other ways to engage with it and learn in your own ways. And trust me, that is that in itself is a nice mentality to have, is just like being a learner of something and engaging with the game you love in a way that doesn't necessarily involve playing it. That's a lot of and I talked a little bit about the previous Loncast if you want to like go watch that like almost 5 hour thing. uh like I find other ways to engage with it and really appreciate the game, and that in it itself is a beautiful thing. And I wouldn't be discouraged to just like sit back and like learn things more passively. But if you want to learn things more actively too, that's all the more power to you. So yeah, that's that's my little spiel here at the end, and I think almost 3 hours later, I think we can wrap up a little bit of the conversation here, unless my two guests would like to add anything.
I got nothing else. Pretty wide variety of topics, or all encapsulated in this specific set. But yeah, no, I don't have anything else.
Yeah, same here. I think we've talked about quite a bit today. And
Mhm.
if there's anything else we needed to talk about, then we'll definitely get there at some point in the
Yeah,
future.
yeah, most definitely the long cast. I ain't planning on ending it soon. In fact, I want to do more going into 2026. This last long cast of the year, and I think it's been a very good year for just my general willingness to do content creation. Let me see here. How many long casts did I do this year? I want to say it was 4, 5. Give me just a second just to verify that. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then this will be the sixth one. So six of them. Yeah, like I said, if you are so inclined and interested in learning BB tag, Mito, you know the place to shill.
Well, if you're giving me the platform, I mean, uh, in all seriousness, if you are interested in BB tag in any capacity, and you're not even just in NA, but in any sort of any scene that you want to come experience with, I believe Intertwining Fates is the best place to do so. We have nearly 750 people all interested in the same thing as you are, and every single one of them would be willing to help you in 749 of them would be willing to help you in some capacity. I take pride in the way that we've cultivated the scene so far, and going into 2026, I firmly believe that we will continue to keep that trend. We we have a lot to live up to from WNF's closing, but we're gonna do our damnedest to make sure that's the case. So if you're interested in following us and seeing some as much BB tag as you possibly can, then please feel free.
Link to the Interning Face server will be in the description, but besides that, I think it's only right if you two want to show yourselves a little bit.
Well, you know, at Mastrcheap, literally on any sort of platform that I probably have a presence on. Like, if nobody's taking that name besides me on anything. So yeah, at Mastrcheap on Twitter, Blue Sky, which I'm gonna try to be more active on, Twitch, that same as before, and yeah, just a passing through Ragman at this point.
Yes, very big note. If for whatever reason someone's
Oh yeah,
watching this, uh,
go ahead, go ahead.
if for some reason someone is watching this and they don't know, there is not an E in Master. He will kill
Oh
you.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Specifically take out the Ian Master. Like I made that name when I was like, oh jeez, like 9 years old, and it's worked up until this point. So yeah, cool kids, take away letters from names and such. Yeah.
Yeah, if that was really bothering you the entire time that Master Chief was seemingly misspelled, no, it wasn't. I hope that clears it up in case that was a bother to somebody in the audience that's gotten this far. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Just clarifying, Cheap. What age did you say you made this at? Your tag, I mean.
Okay, so it was whenever Halo 2 was released. So yeah, about 2004, I think, was when that released.
Did you
Yeah.
know him? Did you know him?
What is the question implying? What is this?
Oh no.
What is this question? I don't like that question. What
Did
do you
you
mean?
know him? Look at the PC chat. Did you know him?
I gotta. Well,
Mito, count your goddamn blessings that you're not going to Frosty Faustings. I would kill you for making this joke.
I
All right.
gotta. I guess I gotta. Like, hold on. Give me a second just for the audience so that they know what they're currently what you're currently looking into.
My God.
Oh fuck.
Oh, Jesus
Look at
Christ.
that look at that thing.
Look at that thing.
Just
I gotta kill
Okay.
you. Like I gotta. It's not enough that I gotta kill you. I gotta make sure there's no record of you after. Like everything's just going to
Hell
be
yeah.
erased.
I'll be
This is-
reincarnated into the. Oh, go ahead.
this is
No, I'm
what
going to break that cycle. You're done.
GG's. It's cooked. It's cooked.
this is what Florida water does to people, folks.
Florida water. I'll have
Bro,
you know, I avoid Dasani just like the rest of you.
man. This is gonna be really ironic because, like, I know they got some probably like ancient dinosaur DNA in that Florida water. This could be you. This could
be.
This could be
It-
you,
it-
Mito. You could be
is that-
this.
Is that why I think alligator tastes like chicken?
I don't know.
I mean, it kind of does though.
Okay, no, we're on the same page then. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's good enough to wrap up on.
You don't have anything to show on your end?
No, I'm not important. IF is more important to
Oh,
me.
wow. Okay, come on. Give
I mean,
yourself some more credit from that.
IF is the biggest shill I guess you could give, but like, come on.
All right, fine. If you want to find me at Midori on Twitter or Serenus Forest. Both of those work. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this, I am trying to pick up graphic design and video editing as a second profession. So if you are at all interested in employing me, please feel free to follow and ask about it. I will be more than happy to do so. But I believe that's all. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, man.
All right. Yes, thank you to both of my guests for giving us a very good time, sharing their mentalities when it comes to play style, mindset, all of that. But yeah, Loncast episode 7 featuring Midori and Mastrcheap. I at the at the time of this recording, I still haven't come up with a good name of it. I'll have it by the time it uploads. Trust me. But yeah, some future plans in general. Obviously, I guess that more long casts are coming in the future. I opened up this invitation from the previous long cast, but it's still in place. If you have an idea of a topic that you would like me to cover, then please feel free to tell me. Leave a comment down below or just like message me or ping me somewhere. I'm more than happy to talk about like mostly anything. It doesn't even have to be tag related. Though tag is obviously a very central point to my channel. So if you have any ideas, do not be afraid to ask. In terms of projects, I have one thing that's in the works. Honestly, I've just been kind of delaying it because I've been a little lazy about making another guide, but it's gonna get done eventually. TM. Besides that, going into 2026, there's probably not going to be a huge change in terms of the content style that I really want to push out. Though, yeah, like if you have other ideas, regardless of like Longcast or like other silly projects like that, like I'm more than willing to hear them out and just do funny stuff related to tag. Besides that, I don't really have anything special to say for the end of the year. I hope everyone watching had a good Christmas or whatever holiday that you might celebrate. And going into the new year, it's gonna be the same old lawn for the most part. I don't have any particular New Year's resolutions for this channel. But yeah, with all that being said, this has been another wonderful episode of the Loncast, and I will see everyone else later. Have a good rest of the night, day, morning. I don't know what time zone you might be in when you're watching this, but regardless, have a good rest of the day and Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year.
All right. Peace.